Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, universities and colleges here in our county. Our schools are focusing on science education starting in elementary school, and we have many high school students participating in Intel and are winning numerous awards for their research and hard work. Hofstra has graciously awarded grants for STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math, helping students to further their studies in these important subjects. The sad fact is, after all of this knowledge is gained in our county, they are leaving for college and many never return. We must reverse this trend. Academic research conducted by the Institute for Strategy and Competitiveness at Harvard Business School indicates that areas with strong clusters, which is basically defined as a phenomenon whereby firms from the same industry gather together in close proximity, produce more economic growth, more jobs, stronger wage growth, increased entrepreneurial activity, and more intellectual property than other areas. This is the promise of creating a healthcare and medical research cluster. I would like to digress and speak briefly about the loss of a cluster. After Sandy, the Long Beach Medical Center closed. There was a loss of over 1,000 jobs. Doctors with their practices moved out of Long Beach, and the ripple effect was felt by the local establishments, such as restaurants and surrounding businesses, which saw a dramatic drop in sales and as a result have closed. This is why this concept and proposal is so important to the future of Nassau County. For me, the most alarming statistic was a drop in the 0 to 9 age group, and we know that this is a reality as many schools have reported lower enrollments. I look forward to hearing from our speakers, and I hope this will be the beginning of an initiative that will only mean success for Nassau County, its residents and businesses. I would like now to introduce Legislator Carrier Szilagyi, who will also offer his opening comments.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Legislator Ford, Controller Maragos, residents and guests. My name is Carrier Szilagyi, and I have the distinct honor to represent the 3rd Legislative District. The cultural and economic diversity of my district gives me a distinct perspective on Controller Maragos' report. I commend the Controller for presenting his economic vision for Nassau County, focusing on the healthcare industry. By presenting his vision and analysis in this forum today, he provides a good starting point to initiate what should be an ongoing conversation about creating long-term sustainable growth and development in Nassau County. The Controller's report proposes to make Long Island the world's leader in healthcare treatment and medical research. Healthcare institutions are very important to our region. It is an idea worth exploring as well as expanding. We must consider a wide array of industries that will attract a diverse workforce in terms of skills, education, and age. More important, there is a dire need for adequate and affordable housing for the workforce that we are seeking to attract. The likelihood of job market development is more attainable when there is affordable workforce housing to attract a diverse workforce. Several years ago, Sustainable Long Island 2020 as a white paper produced as a white paper initiative in a conversation about what citizens as well as public-private institutions could do to initiate development. Too often, elected officials, community activists, and residents become polarized when engaging in developing planning or community vision projects. We're on the cusp of 2020, and we must strongly consider coming together for constructive dialogue on the best ways to make our county a thriving and economically strong community that attracts young people, retains a talented workforce, and creates opportunity for established as well as emerging businesses to locate here. This is why I challenge all of us here today to look forward to the 21st century, because the future is now. We can be creators and innovators. I must emphasize that the economic growth that benefits all residents requires careful consideration of numerous underlying forces, including but not limited to providing affordable workforce housing with neighborhood amenities such as restaurants, theaters, and shopping centers, the necessity and cost of the infrastructure upgrades, and viability of an industry or sector, not only in good economic times, but also during a downturn in the market. Any plans for redevelopment or to catalyze growth in an economic sector must involve all stakeholders, especially the input of Nassau County residents. The failure of the proposed development of the former Fortunoff site for a casino provides a cautionary example of what can happen when all stakeholders are not involved in a development plan before it is set in motion. I sincerely hope that today's hearing will help to create an ongoing dialogue. I look forward to working with my colleagues in government, business, and education leaders, residents, and community advocates to create a shared vision for our county. Thank you.
I will now hear from Controller George Maragos. We'll take questions and other comments afterwards, as we have two speakers that need to leave in a short amount of time. So we'll first hear from Controller Maragos and then the next two speakers. Thank you.
Chairman Denise Ford, I commend this committee for convening to start planning the future, the economic future of Nassau County, and I'm delighted to be here to speak in that regard. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a big problem. We are getting older, we have less school-age children, and our young adults are leaving. Demographically, we are dying. Economically, we are not keeping up with our region or our nation. If these trends continue, in just 10 years, we will have 3% less population than we did in 2000. We will have an astonishing 30% less school-age children, and we will continue to see 11% of our millennials go off to college and never return back to Nassau County. The consequence of inaction is an acceleration of these trends, higher taxes, and lower wage gains. I do not want to be an optimist. I do not intend to be a pessimist because I'm an optimist. We already have the nucleus within Nassau County, and change is simmering. We have the capacity, we have the resources, and the geographic location to reverse all these negative trends and to build a better future with greater opportunity for our children. But in order to grasp our potential, we need to work together, think big, invest big in our future, and the starting point has to be to define what we want to be. What is our vision for the future? How are we going to compete within our region, within our nation, and within the global economy? In the 60s, we were the aerospace and defense industry leaders in the nation. Today, I do not believe we have an identity. Unlike other regions, such as Silicon Valley with its world-leading IT, information technology capability, the financial industry in Manhattan, the pharmaceutical industry in New Jersey, and the biomedical industry in Boston and San Diego. In order to be competitive in today's and tomorrow's global economy, you must either be number one or number two. You cannot be a little of everything. We have proposed a vision to become the world leaders in healthcare. Long Island, we believe, should be where people come to find the best medical treatment. Long Island should be where the next big cures will be found for cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's, dementia, and all other major diseases afflicting the world today. This could be a $1 trillion+ new eco-friendly economy. Each major cure is estimated to be approximately $500 billion industry in itself. And we have the nucleus and the natural resources to achieve this vision. For example, healthcare is our biggest local employer. We have some of the best hospitals, some of the best universities, some of the best research centers, one of the best educated workforces. And we are next door to the most dynamic and exciting city in the world, New York City. What we lack is a synergy of all these resources working together, challenging one another by competing to become the world's leader through innovation. In order to create this synergy, we need to bring all these resources together into a healthcare industry cluster in order to create the collaboration required between our universities, hospitals, and research institutions. We need to tap into the thriving financial industry in the city. And we need to spur innovation by attracting some of the best minds in the world in these areas. So how do we do this? It's my belief that government needs to take the lead and bring all these resources together by investing in enhancing the research facilities in our local health, research, and educational institutions. Most importantly, physically interconnect all these institutions with a 21st century public transportation system that links these institutions to one another and the world through JFK, LaGuardia, MacArthur, and Manhattan in under 30 minutes. And virtually interconnects all these institutions through high light-speed IT infrastructure. The benefits, I believe, will be enormous. $1 trillion new economy that doesn't exist today, high-paying jobs, enormous developments around the new transportation centers, universities, and healthcare institutions with housing, restaurants, and entertainment venues. The investment by today's standards, I believe, is modest and will never be cheaper. I assure you of that. It will never be cheaper. My estimation is, and please don't fall off your chairs, that around 10 billion will get us started to build the required infrastructure. And 10 billion may sound like a lot of money, but in terms of a capital investment, it probably translates into costing approximately $200 million a year. Just $200 million as an expense given today's cost of money in interest rates. And I think we can certainly raise that money. Our governments can help us raise that money to start building this vision with the infrastructure of the 21st century. I hope that this forum is a start to a serious dialogue towards us building this the future we want together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Controller. I know that there are questions, but since we have speakers that need to leave, would you be able to wait and then we can ask you the questions later?
I'd be happy to do so.
And thank you very much, sir. All right. Next, I'd like to call up Mr. Joseph Carney, the Executive Director of our Industrial Development Agency, and Mr. Nick Trezulli, his Director.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Legislator Ford, for the opportunity to speak before you today. I salute the Controller for starting this dialogue. I think it's important for you all to understand that the county the county executive and the county does have an economic policy, does have an idea and a vision for what we're trying to do in the county. Part of which includes the controller's notion of the idea of clustering around the healthcare industry. When the county executive took office and this administration took over, it was filled with a lot of great ideas and dreams. The problem is, with ideas and dreams is reality sometimes is a very sobering force. Confronted with jobs and companies quietly leaving the county, our vision of trying to bring in new companies from far and wide slowly devolved into keeping what we had. The idea being, and the thought being, unless you keep what you have, it's very hard to acquire new. So we took upon us, through the county executive, a twofold approach to how we develop economically, the economic engine in this county. And that was first to keep what we have by aggressively pursuing the existing companies, visiting with them, finding out what their needs were, and offering them solutions to the extent that we could offer them solutions. Secondly, and simultaneously, we looked for companies elsewhere. Our staff currently is visiting outside this county on a weekly basis, and companies are moving in to the county. We have been able, through aggressive marketing, to attract new companies. But as you know, there's only so much that the county can do with the resources that it has. We have partnered very, very well with the state. We've been, heretofore there was no long-term relationship with the State Economic Development Group and those folks. We work together with them every day. We partner with them every day. We partner with our utilities every day in trying to come up with solutions that work for companies to try and stay here and for companies to try and come here. The idea, as you know, is limited in what it can and can't do with respect to financial relief. But I can assure you, and we are open to you and will be available to you to speak with you and your constituencies whenever you need us. We are we're very proud of what we've done. Mr. Turzulli will speak about, in my opinion, what have been extremely wonderful successes. And with your help through the Local Economic Assistance Corporation, that Legislator Gonzalez, your predecessor, Peter Schmidt, was with the foresight to create, has done amazing things in speaking to the very sector that the controller talks about. And the numbers in refinancing for our hospitals and jobs that we've retained through the foresight of this legislature, you ought to be applauded for that. And you'll hear these numbers. So these are significant successes. I want you to know, make no mistake about it, economically this county is going to get stronger. It continues to grow. New companies come here. We meet every week with new people coming here that talk about the idea of doing business in Nassau County, of businesses staying in Nassau County. We are reaching out to whole new elements of our population, to the differently disabled. Do you realize that only 19% of the differently disabled individuals in this county have jobs? 19%. Able-bodied, fantastic human beings. Only 19%. That's where we should be looking, to create jobs for that segment of the population. This administration, and through the IDA and Economic Development team in the county, is working overtime to ensure that. We'll talk and you'll hear about the hub and what we're trying to do there. These are good times coming for Nassau. They're good times. If we all work together and stay strong, Nassau can continue to grow and prosper. Thank you. Mr. Turzulli, if you give the legislature some numbers, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carney. So realizing that economic development and trying to keep young folks here, it's a twofold approach. We need to ensure there are jobs for the young people, but also they need places to live. So this administration has aggressively worked with local developers and local communities that want to redevelop and create transit-oriented development. To date, there are over 1,200 units of rental housing in downtowns that are either built under construction, or approved. Those areas include Great Neck, Mineola, North Hills, Farmingdale, Long Beach, and Roslyn. And since we all work in this building, it's pretty clear if we go across the street onto Old Country Road, we'll see 2 brand new buildings erecting from the ground, which will house over 600 units of housing, the exact type of housing that people my age as a 32-year-old want to live in. By a train station where you can get into Manhattan in 35 minutes. The innovation, healthcare, and education sector, as Mr. Carney alluded to, under the guidance and leadership of this legislature in 2010, we created our Nassau Local Economic Assistance Corps. To date, we've helped many institutions of higher education and medical, including Winthrop University, their brand new research facility, again, right across the street in Mineola. It was a $150 million investment that they made, which we helped finance. It's a cutting-edge diabetes research institute. Cold Spring Harbor Laboratories, the Catholic Health Service System, St. Francis Hospital, world-renowned leaders in medicine and innovation right here. This administration, under the help and guidance of this legislature, has already committed to helping, and we've already provided assistance. So we're there. There's more to do, but we're certainly on the right path. We have a great new dynamic partnership with the New York Institute of Technology, which we can't get into too much detail at this moment. We'll be happy to come back and brief the ledge when appropriate, but there will be a cutting-edge incubator in Nassau County partnering with NYIT, again creating these high-tech jobs, which we all know are the cornerstone to innovation and the cornerstone to economic growth. The film production and digital post-production industry in Nassau County is a great story that if the audience doesn't know, I'm really happy to fill them in on. In 2013 and 2014 combined, there were over 2,000 days of production. 2,000. We compete internationally with films, for films. Spider-Man, The Sound of Music Live, Peter Pan Live, Salt, Noah, just to name a few, were shot almost entirely right here in Nassau County. In 2012, over $180 million in total economic impact was generated as a result of the film industry in this county. And it's not just the movie stars and the producers that are coming here. There's a great multiplier effect when it comes to film and television production. The weekly bill at the local bagel store when they were shooting The Amazing Spider-Man was $16 grand. $16,000 in 1 week. That's the type of ancillary economic benefit the entire county benefits from when we land these big productions. Another great story in our innovation sector, which I'm happy to tell, is the company DealerTrack. DealerTrack is probably the most important technology company in Nassau County that nobody's heard of. They're a major, major force in automotive technology. Their headquarters is in Lake Success, but they have offices around the country in 20 different states. When they came to us 18 months ago, they said, we're thinking about creating a world headquarters. We don't know where we're going to put it. And they hired a really aggressive site selector. And this guy, he went to every state that they were thinking about. Texas, Florida, California, the Carolinas. And he shopped this deal around. And he said, we're going to build a $150 million global headquarters for our company. We currently have 350 full-time employees with an average salary of $96,000, not inclusive of benefits. The exact type of jobs we want right here in Nassau County, and that have been here. They came to us and said, we need your help. What do you think? Working together with New York State and with the utilities, we were able to be competitive with all the other states in the country and make sure they stay right here in Nassau County. They're building a $150 million global headquarters right in Lake Success. They're going to keep the 350 employees they currently have, and they're going to generate another 350 employees, all at that average salary of $96,000 a year. We're doing okay. We know there's more to do, but there have been a lot of successes under this administration that I'm very happy to talk about. Some other companies to mention quickly, Hain Celestial. Their global headquarters right here in Nassau County. They're an international food and beverage, organic food and beverage leader. Another company which has a terrific name, Supreme Screw from the Bronx. They came to us and said, we're thinking about Nassau County. We can go to Connecticut, we can go to New Jersey. We're thinking about Nassau, how can you help? They manufacture precision metal components that are used in defense, robotic surgery, and a lot of other industries. Their machines cost $500,000 each. They're in the Bronx. Crime is an issue where they are currently. None of the principals are from Nassau County, and they come and they say, you know, Mr. Carney, Mr. County Executive, we know you say Nassau County is safe. We think you're right, but we don't know, we're not from here. So what did the county executive do? He called the police commissioner. He said, come into this meeting. The police commissioner came, said, here's my cell phone number. Here's the precinct commander's cell phone number. Here are the crime stats for this particular area. Whatever you need, call me directly. That's the type of environment we're trying to create here in Nassau County for the business community. We understand tax incentives are not necessarily enough, but it's creating this holistic community to provide benefits for these companies. And we're very proud to say, again, after almost 2 years of discussion and negotiation, Supreme Screw is coming here, and they're going to create 50 new jobs. We have a great partnership with Launchpad. I know you're going to hear from Peter Goldsmith in a little bit. Launchpad, these are real tech incubators. It's great. I was there a couple days ago. There's one in Mineola, there's one in Huntington, and there's soon to be one in Great Neck. And there may be more underway. And you go there, and you see young professionals doing things on whiteboards I can't even comprehend. Formulas, they're doing data coding. It's really fascinating stuff. And what Peter said, he said, Nick, you should come here at 8:30 in the morning and hang out by the train station and see all these young professionals come off the train and come work here. Well, we're hopeful that they'll be moving into the new buildings that are coming up right around the corner. So there are good things happening. And Peter can certainly talk a lot more about Launchpad and the technology sector when he gets up to speed. Nassau County is constrained a little bit when it comes to development because there's not a lot of vacant land. A lot of these states, where they give land away, they can give it away because there's so much of it. Nassau County is very developed. As a result, the county executive and our board and Mr. Carney have come up with a policy called adaptive reuse, where we're encouraging developers to come in and look at properties that are up, but that are vacant, underdeveloped, and undervalued, and say, what can you do within this particular box? And again, using Mineola as a great example, 2 national developers came in, found office buildings that were vacant. Vacant office buildings on Old Country Road, almost unheard of, can't even think about it. They came in, they found these properties and said, we know what we can do to turn these properties into income-producing properties that would benefit everybody in the community. So again, adaptive reuse is a policy we're aggressively maintaining. We haven't neglected Main Street or small business. For far too long, industrial development agencies were tools of big developers and big business. When the county executive came into office, who was a small business owner himself previously, he said, well, wait a second, what can you do? How can we reach out and help Main Street? What can we do to provide assistance to the small and medium-sized businesses? We came up with a program, our LEADS program, first of its kind in New York State, to address those particular issues and to address small and Main Street businesses. As a result, we created this program. We came out with it 2 weeks before Superstorm Sandy hit. Sandy hit, and now all of a sudden, there were thousands of businesses that were affected in the flood zone. We reached out, we went into that community, and we provided assistance directly to these small businesses. And we're very proud to say, and Legislator Ford was a big help working with their constituents down in Long Beach and Island Park. We provided over $4 million in tax breaks to over 110 businesses that were affected by Superstorm Sandy. And then some of them will tell you to this day, Nick, the only assistance we received from any sort of level of government was what you guys did in Nassau County. And we're very, very proud of that, and I just want to thank Legislator Ford again for all of her help with that. We created an Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club in the county, realizing that there's so many folks who have ideas. They don't know how to go to point A to point B. We meet every month. It's a safe space for inventors and entrepreneurs to come in. We've had over 2,500 people come through the door since we created it 3 years ago, and it's been featured in the New York Times. Again, it's just another tool that we're trying to provide to the business community. As Mr. Carney alluded to, We realize to be competitive with the other regions, we need to work together with New York State and with our utilities and create a global incentive package. I'd like to read, if I may, on the record, a correspondence from New York State pertaining to this particular hearing. To confirm our conversation, this is from Barry Greenspan, Deputy Director, Empire State Development Corporation, Long Island office. To confirm our conversation, it has been a mutually productive relationship between Empire State Development and the Nassau IDA. As New York State's primary economic development agency, ESD depends heavily on our IDA partners across New York. The relationship between our office has been a particularly beneficial one, and we look forward to continuing to work closely together for the benefit of county residents. They are the real beneficiaries of high-wage job opportunities and increased tax base resulting from many of the projects we've worked on. Examples of our successful collaboration would include DealerTrack, Hain Foods, and Supreme Screw, but there are certainly numerous other Nassau County companies who have benefited not only from our combined experience and economic development resources, but in our funding programs. We look forward to working closely in the future. Take care. And just to give the committee some numbers, just so you know it's not all facts, but the real numbers associated with this. The unemployment rate in Nassau County as of December of 2014 was 4.1%, the lowest in the region, 4.1%. Since this administration took office, the total economic benefit of all of the deals that we have worked on is $10,684,725,570. So over $10 billion of net economic impact is coming into the county as a result of the deals that we've done. In addition, another number which is equally important is the total tax benefit. This is the amount of taxes all of the affected taxing jurisdictions will get more than they were previously getting as a result of our deals. And that's $342,710,221. So again, that's more money than these affected taxing jurisdictions would have received but for the deals that we did in those areas. We've created over 7,000 new jobs and helped retain over 5,000. And those are hard job numbers. Those aren't projections, and it's not a multiplier effect. That's the real math. Those are the jobs that are committed to be created in this county, and if they're not, the IDA comes in and retakes that benefit back. It's been a pleasure speaking to everybody today. I look forward to taking questions at the end of the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I commend you on your hard work and appreciate the successes of the IDA.
Thank you.
But I just want to say that it only reinforces my belief that this idea can be implemented. And I'm hoping that by working together with you, with your expertise and relationship with New York State, we can help bring this idea into a reality. We'd like to use that $10 billion and let George Maragos run with it. So thank you. All right, we're going to go out a little bit of order. I'm going to ask Ms. Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the testimony provided today by the IDA and also by the Controller's Office. But yet, I heard two different visions of Nassau County. By the Controller's Office, he shared how things are very gloomy, that we don't have enough growth, that we don't have enough affordable housing. But then from the IDA, we hear that everything is great, we're working hard, and we have 1,200 new units of apartments. And I just feel that both departments are not on the same page. I feel I'm hearing two different visions here. Can you please help expand upon that?
Is that a question for me?
Yes.
I think,
Yes, for both, your office and also the IDA.
I don't think there's a dispute. I think the issue is how we see it. Obviously, we're not there yet, Legislator Szilagyi. But we are making enormous progress. The workforce housing along the railroad was something the Roush Foundation talked about years ago, and as soon as the county executive came in, that was the first priority. Obviously, projects take time to develop and come to fruition, but they are, and they're growing now. And these downtowns are starting to be reinvigorated. We're a long way. I don't mean to imply that we don't have work to do, but I don't believe we're about to slip into the ocean either. And I think that there is great hope.
I'm sorry. Yeah, but the county is under a fiscal state watchdog group. There are financial and fiscal issues that we should be concerned about.
There's no question about it. Yes, there was no question about that. And that's why working within the confines of the constraints put upon the county, in my opinion, we're making enormous progress. But we still have more work to do. I think the controller's concept of a cluster and healthcare source is laudable. Is laudable. And we will work together to do whatever we can to implement that vision. We will work with the universities and the hospitals. We're committed to that.
This question is for yourself and the controller. What plan do we have with respect to affordable housing? I mean, we all could talk about a plan, but what plan do we have? And my colleague agrees with that. What plan do we have with respect to affordable housing?
With respect to the IDA, we wait for an applicant, a developer to come to us. We're not a housing agency. We don't go out and select sites for housing. We wait for developers who select sites, acquire sites, and bring an application to us. And they have been doing that.
Okay, thank you. And just if we could hear from the controller
Thank
on
you.
it briefly, then I know that legislative board will to proceed with the hearing.
Yeah, I did not mean to imply that a lot of good work has not been done. A lot of good work has been done and continues to be done. Otherwise, our county would have been a lot worse. But I feel that we need to pick up the pace because the world is accelerating. We are in a global competitive economy, and we have to become the best in something. We can do everything else, and we must be doing everything else. But we also need to have a focus and become the best in something, because that's what's going to accelerate economic growth going forward. That's what's going to bring huge amounts of investment into our communities. That's what's going to create the jobs and the housing that we need. Opportunities have to come first in order for our kids to stay here. And I think that's building that synergism by focusing on something that we're going to be the best in the world at. I think it's going to accelerate our economy, and it's going to have huge economic dividends going forward and make Nassau County a tremendously exciting place to work and live.
Thank you, Controller. I know that we are pressed for time, so I provided to you. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Legislative Sergeant. Don't normally like to cut him off, but we are pressed for time. I'm going to ask Mr. Rich Bardino, Vice President and Executive Dean of the Breslin Center for Real Estate Studies at Hofstra University.
Good afternoon. Chairperson Ford and members of the Economic Development and Labor Committee, thank you so much for inviting me here this afternoon. I'm Vice President for Business Development at Hofstra University. Stu Rabinowitz couldn't be with you this afternoon, but he does send his warm regards. I couldn't help reminiscing a little bit, being in this chamber today. I served on the Board of Supervisors from 1993 to 95. At that point in time, I had black hair, and I think I've become an example of the aging population here in Nassau County. Hofstra is deeply committed to the well-being of this region, of Long Island, and our neighbors. We have a great stake in the vitality of the region with 2,600 employees, 12,000 students, 240 acres, and 115 buildings. And we really appreciate the vision that George Maragos has put forward, the controller, for a healthcare cluster here in Nassau County. And I also want to, because I do work in business development, I want to congratulate Joe and Nick for the fine job that they're doing at the IDA. I serve on the Long Island Regional Planning Council, and we see firsthand some very positive developments happening here on Long Island, and they're doing a fine job. Hofstra is a great partner to Nassau County in bringing young people to our area. You may not realize it, but 50% of our students now actually come from out of state. There's another 10 to 15% on average that are New Yorkers from outside of Long Island. We wholeheartedly agree that Nassau has significant healthcare assets and can be an engine for economic growth and has tremendous potential for the future. The importance of the healthcare industry is evident in the healthcare programs that we offer in 7 of our schools. Now, I'm just going to take a few moments to talk to you about a few of the programs. I'm sure you're aware of the fact that we have partnered with North Shore LIJ in the Hofstra North Shore LIJ School of Medicine, and this is the first allopathic school of medicine to be developed in New York State in 45 years. And North Shore LIJ is a great partner for us. They are now, and this statistic is as recent as this morning, where Michael Dowling spoke at the university, but they are now the largest private employer in New York State. As of April, they will have 64,000 employees. They hire on the average of 125 employees a week. The School of Medicine is built upon a strong partnership between the clinical and graduate medical education programs at North Shore LIJ and the robust research and academic programs at Hofstra and the Feinstein Institute for Medical Research. Kevin Tracy heads up that institute. If you happen to be doing some casual reading in Scientific American this weekend, you'll see that he has a peer-reviewed article in that national and international journal. The school's innovative curriculum integrates biomedical, social, and clinical sciences and medicine throughout the students' 4 years. And that curriculum has become a model for medical schools across the country. Just to give you briefly an example, as the students come to their first year at the medical school, they are all qualified as emergency medical technicians. And within the first weeks of them being enrolled in the school, they're actually out on ambulances doing clinical work. This spring, we'll graduate our first class from the medical school. If you happen to be on Hempstead Turnpike, you'll see that we've added to the facility. We're going to open next week another 64,000 square feet there. And we have full accreditation from the Liaison Committee on Medical Education. In the School of Health Science and Human Services, there are many healthcare management programs. We offer 2 physician assistant programs. We offer a Bachelor of Science in Health Science and a Bachelor of Science in Community Health. We also offer a Master's in Public Health, Health Administration, Audiology, Speech Pathology, and many others. We have a new School of Engineering and Applied Sciences, and Hofstra has an undergraduate program in Biomedical Engineering. As I'm sure you're aware, bioengineering is the application of engineering concepts, methods, and techniques to biology and medicine. It's the bridges the gap between the life sciences and the physical sciences. Hofstra offers a fully accredited engineering science degree with a specialization in bioengineering. This is just a sampling of our programs. I don't want to bore you with all the academic programs that we do have. We've seen our enrollment grow dramatically in our biology and our chemistry programs. In our new School of Engineering and Health Sciences, we've doubled our enrollment over the past several years. We see great employment opportunities for our graduates in these programs, and working with North Shore LIJ, we intend to grow them. Let me add one more thing to this, and that is we see the Nassau Hub as an ideal location for research facilities that would connect the medical and engineering schools. And it would also connect, and Ken Saunders, the president of Nassau Community College this year, there's a new science center there, would also connect with the programs at Nassau Community College. Forest City Raton will be breaking ground on a new coliseum this summer that will include a restaurant and entertainment complex. The south side of the hub property could accommodate a research complex if a parking structure is built on the property. I know that County Executive Ed Mangano is working hard to obtain the funds for this garage, and that Governor Cuomo has included some funds in his proposed budget. The redevelopment of the hub can be a regional and national model for suburban development, and hopefully we'll have everyone's support to get that off the ground. Thank you so much for inviting me here this afternoon.
Thank you very much. You know, Hofstra University just really does have, great reputation, and it's not just, here in Nassau County, but as you said, that so many students come from out of state, and I'm sure that you probably get a lot of foreign students as well. One quick question, because I know that you graduate a lot, with all of these degrees and whatever. Would you know how many of your graduates are able to still work here in Nassau County, or do you find that a lot of them graduate and then, or now have to go elsewhere to find employment?
We do very well with employment. You know, we have statistics on how many of our students are employed within a 6-month period or pursuing graduate programs. I don't know that we've broken it out locally, but I can tell you that there's been a number of studies. I think some of the statistics George has, if you look at the index report, there's no question that we have a very serious problem with young people leaving the island. If you look at that cohort from 18 to 34, and I think there's some recent statistics in the last index report, you'll see that we are below New York City. I forget exactly what the number is, but which is pretty amazing. You know, my family came from Brooklyn, came from Sheepshead Bay, and they moved out here. And what I'm hearing from all my contemporaries now is that young people want to move to Brooklyn. That's where they want to be. And so if you look at those statistics, you'll see that there's actually a higher percentage of that cohort in New York City than there is on Long Island. I think the hopeful thing is that the universities and all the universities here are importing young people. They're bringing in young people here. And with the vision that we have for healthcare and some other economic development initiatives that we have here, I think we're on the stage in terms of bringing them back. There are a lot of, and I don't want to go on, I know that we're time constrained, but there are a lot of good things happening. It was referred to earlier in terms of transit-oriented development. It's happening right here in Mineola. It's happening in Farmingdale. It's happening in Westbury. I think we're beginning to see a change in the mentality. And I'll just throw one, well, actually two other numbers at you. For the first time, when the index did their report this last fall, over 50%, a majority, would consider living in multiple dwellings on Long Island. This is a dramatic change. And the other thing that has changed dramatically, and we live in a very diverse county, becoming more diverse every day, is that if you go back to 1970s, 50% of the population were families with children. That's now down to 26%. So our population has changed, and we have to start changing not only what we do in terms of our economy and opportunities, but our housing as well.
Okay, thank you very much. We just have Legislator Richie Whitten has a comment.
I just have a comment more than anything. As a Hofstra grad from 1990, every time I go back there, I'm so impressed. And I think that Hofstra represents what Nassau can do as well. It's just building every area. It's a very positive feeling. And I wanted to ask you, do you know there's a University of Miami has a Diabetes Research Institute right on the property, and it's one of the major leaders in diabetes research. I wonder sometimes if there's like a way we could combine with other charities even just to draw them to Nassau. You know, I know actually when that building was built in the University of Miami, the labor unions and all donated their time and made this beautiful facility. And again, you know, it helped that whole area as far as bringing in jobs and bringing in a, you know, a very reputable, you know, institution with the university. Have you like,
We try and be a very good neighbor. I don't know if you realize that the Interfaith Nutrition Network was actually founded at Hofstra, and we continue to be supportive.
Yeah,
next
great.
month, the Alzheimer's Foundation is going to be having an event on the campus to invite our young people to familiarize them with some of the struggles with the disease. They actually bring in a band as well and make it a very entertaining thing. The Feinstein Institute for Medical Research, which is at North Shore LIJ, as I mentioned earlier, they have a tremendous research program there. They're working very diligently. They're coming up with some interesting therapies for infectious diseases. We are always willing to collaborate and work with folks. I think that, you know, part of what we hope to see here, and when we start to talk about the county, the academic community, the state working together, I think if we can start to collaborate, pull these resources, and this is certainly something that has been recommended by the controller, that we can build these things. And it is a collaborative effort that includes not-for-profits as well as the academic
And
institutions.
that's what this has to do with it, just to answer. The bottom line is I think with not-for-profits, combining with, with our desire to, I would love to see Nassau County. I couldn't pick a better thing I'd like to see happen here as far as medical research. But, but again, just maybe trying to reach out to a number of the non-for-profits just to, because they've already got the ball rolling in a lot of different areas, and they might be more willing to come to Nassau also with the proximity to New York City. And one last thing, and I won't take up any more of your time, but now, if I did my math right, I think you served with Donald DeRucci?
Yes.
All right, that's my dad, so
I know.
I figured, okay.
Quick question.
Great gentleman.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, good to see you here. Thank you very much again for the role that.
Harry, you still have black hair, you know? Public service will do this to you. I have to warn you.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
All right. I want to again thank you for being here. You mentioned that you served as the supervisor of the town of Hempstead, and also you served during a time in which the hub was envisioned. The controller in his report describes a light rail system. I would like to know your view on this in terms of its feasibility and its cost, as mentioned by the controller in his report.
I have had a chance to look at and I'm going to date myself here a little bit. I mean, those studies go back probably to the late 90s. There's probably been 3 different iterations. You finally have a comprehensive report, and I think it's excellent. I think, if we can get this thing funded, it would be a tremendous boost to the area. Really pull things together, and again, serve as a model for suburban development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, the next speaker will be Dr. Victor Politi from, I guess I'm going to say NUMC, but I know it's really New Health.
Thank you, Legislator Ford, legislators, members of the Nassau County Committee on Economic Development and Labor. Dr. Victor Politi, I'm the President and CEO of New Health, Nassau University Medical Center. So I'd just like to say that New Health, NUMC, is basically part of growth in Nassau County. And we feel the healthcare industry in general is poised to grow and position ourselves to provide meaningful jobs and competitive salaries to growth here in Nassau County. NUMC has a unique position. We're the safety net hospital here in Nassau County. We're centrally located here on the Hempstead Turnpike in the East Meadow. And we provide a lot of care to the underserved. We have about 50% of our patients are Medicaid patients. About 25% of the patients have no insurance at all. A lot of those are undocumented aliens. So we basically provide care to a lot of patients that can't pay the bill. And basically that's our mission, and we're proud to do it, and we provide the excellent care that they need, as they would if they did have insurance. There's no difference in the care. But this takes a lot of strain off some of the local hospitals that put a strain onto our hospital as well. But in growing and changing, there's going to be called a DSRIP, and I'm not sure, there's a lot of healthcare people in the audience who know what DSRIP is, and it's the Delivery System Reform Incentive Payment Program that comes out of the governor's triple aim program for change of health here in healthcare in New York State. The federal government provided a lot of money to the state to be trickled down to local PPSs, or preferred provider systems, and there are 25 PPSs in the state. Here in Nassau County, we are the lead. Nassau University Medical Center is the lead hospital. Under us is the North Shore Healthcare System, led by Long Island Jewish, with a large percentage of Medicaid patients from Queens, and the Catholic Medical Centers, led by Mercy Hospital, that have a percentage of patients, and as a matter of fact, St. John's Hospital in Queens as well. So now we're looking at Medicaid patients, and they're going to provide money to the hospitals to do a whole paradigm shift in medicine, where they don't want patients coming to the hospital and being admitted to that hospital for avoidable admissions. So there's going to be a lot of money available to hospitals through our PPS to change the way medicine and care is delivered. No longer will it be a volume of care, but more of a value of care. Hospitals will be now taking on risks of patients in their community to keep them healthy. And now what that means is that is going to trickle down to 25% less admissions to the hospital over 5 years. So if we're cutting back to 25% admissions in these hospitals, those patients have to be treated in outpatient facilities. So you're going to see money going down to medical offices, clinics, behavioral health, outpatient drug treatment centers, and even down to physicians' levels. In our PPS alone, we have 8,400 partners, medical providers here in Nassau County that are part of our system. And every one of them are poised to take on more patients and grow. So what we're talking about here is the healthcare industry in general in Nassau County growing by leaps and bounds over the next 5 years as we change that shift of patients getting admitted to the hospital to being treated by physicians' offices, urgent care centers, and outpatient facilities. So how do you do that? It's labor intensive. We're going to have to hire people known as care managers, patient navigators, home health nurses, even paramedics that are going to be trained in paramedicine that are going to go to the homes, check on patients, phone calls. What is your diabetes? What is your insulin, your glucose level today? How much insulin did you take? If you hold on water from congestive heart failure, what is your weight? Are you holding on to water? And they'll be adjusting medication via the phone and via patient visits. This is a large healthcare industry that we can actually look at going forward to develop and grow Nassau County. That's going to be helping, going across the state, but we're so concerned here with Nassau County, with Nassau University Medical Center being the lead. So Nassau University Medical Center itself employs about 3,000 civil service employees. So we're a pretty large provider. And we have about 5,000 total employees in the building itself, including non-civil service. We have 5 federally qualified health clinics that are located throughout Nassau County's poorest areas that provide approximately 100,000 patients per year. So we're out there and we're providing our care, the best care, to the population. But we're not only doing that, we're changing things within Nassau University Medical Center itself. The building that you see on Hempstead Turnpike, 19 stories tall, undergoing, I've been there a year. We've got a brand new ER, $38 million, state-of-the-art level 1 trauma center. That'll be second to none, anywhere in the country. 2 health boards, open a new labor and delivery that you think you're in the Ritz-Carlton. It's really that nice. Today we cut a ribbon on brand new intensive care units, surgical, medical, pediatric, state-of-the-art intensive care units. So God forbid something happens, you get seen by board-certified guys in the ER, in a brand new ER, go up to some 8 great operating rooms with great surgeons, top trained doctors and nurses, and then you go to a brand new ICU. So right here you have a diamond in the rough on Hempstead Turnpike in Nassau University Medical Center, but it's a public hospital, it's a public benefit corporation. This is the people's hospital, and we're there to provide care to the uninsured, to the Medicaid patients. That's our mission. We take it to heart, and everyone in that building feels that way. So we're looking to grow with the district program. Those are the patients we want to treat. Those are the patients we want to get in there to work with. We have certain things, as a safety net hospital, that we just can't understand. So we do a lot of training as well, and there was a lot of educators here. Do you know we have about 29 different schools in that hospital undergoing training? So all the schools, such as the nursing schools and physicians, medical schools, they have 2 years of in-classroom training where they go to a classroom and they sit there and they learn. But then they have 2 years of going to the hospital to get their clinical training. So guess where they come? And besides, all hospitals are doing it, but Nassau University Medical Center has 29 various schools, everybody from LPNs, from the VEEP program to nursing programs from Adelphi and Malloy and Nassau Community College, all the way up to physicians that are being trained from NICOM, American University of Caribbean, and many other schools. So we do a lot of training in that hospital as well. Last year we trained over 1,000 nursing students. So there's a huge opportunity in these hospitals to do some training, to reach out to the different programs. And we're doing that continuously. We're reaching out to other universities in the area to offer them space in the hospital, classroom space in the hospital, welcoming their students into the hospital to learn. We're also building, or have 158 residences on that campus that we use for the residents. So the residents that come from outside New York State that want to train in our facilities have an option to have a market value housing right there on our campus. And as well as A. Holly Patterson Nursing Home, a 589-bed nursing home in Uniondale. We're in the process of building 388 houses on that property right now. So that'll bring some affordable housing down into that Uniondale area as well. So I just wanted to get that out there to talk a little bit about Nassau University and what we're doing, and that we look forward to working together with you and applaud yourselves, the county executives, Controller Maragos, and the IDA for all the work they're doing. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you very much, Dr. Politi, and I know that you've done a lot of work, and for all of us up here, we appreciate the great turnaround with NUMC. But you also probably didn't realize, as you were making your comments, you extended an invitation for all of us to come take a tour of the
We would love that, anytime, thank you very much.
We'll set one up. I
Sure.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker will be for the medical field as well, Mr. Justin Burke from Winthrop Hospital. Okay, all right. All right, the next speaker will be Mr. Peter Kenny from New York Institute of Technology.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pete Kinney. I'm the University Chief of Staff at the New York Institute of Technology, NYIT. For those of you who don't know, NYIT operates one of the largest medical schools in the United States. We've been producing doctors, osteopathic physicians for over 30 years. So each year, a graduating class of over 300 new physicians, the vast majority of which stay in the New York metro area. So if you have a family practitioner who's taking care of you and your children, there's a good chance he's a graduate of NYIT-Com. And with that comment, I'd also like to thank the representatives of the hospital systems here. NYIT-Com has relationships with over 35 medical centers, hospitals, and other healthcare facilities in the region that educate not only our doctors, but our physician's assistants, our nurses, our physical therapists, and our occupational therapists. So we're very proud of our medical program. But that's not why I'm here today. There are two things I want to bring to the committee's attention in terms of the assistance that you are giving and have given and can give to NYIT, which will help the Nassau County economy. The demographic trends identified by the comptroller are exactly on the money. They are extremely accurate. They're the same numbers and trends that our university has been aware of for a number of years. Frankly, it's not the 1960s. People aren't having babies like they were. And the kids on Long Island, the numbers just aren't here anymore, and they're not going to be here for the foreseeable future. Those demographic trends are irrefutable. What that means is declining enrollment, not only for NYIT, but our sister universities on the island. So if we want to stay in business, and NYIT is a not-for-profit university, if we want to stay in business, we have to look outside the New York metro area for students. Now, we've been very successful in the past few years because of our global footprint in enticing young men and women from China, India, France, Brazil, actually over 100 foreign countries to come and study in New York. But if we want to sustain ourselves as a viable educational institution with the kind of student body we want, that means American students. And in order to go out and recruit American students outside of New York, and I'm talking about California, Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, and Florida. That's where the American kids are. In order to get those kids to come to New York, we're currently pursuing the largest construction project in university history. And that's where Nassau County comes in, because Nassau County has been incredibly helpful in terms of helping NYIT get ready to bond that construction project. Without new residence halls and a new community center on our Old Westbury campus, we will not be successful in attracting American kids to our Old Westbury campus. So the support of Nassau County is paramount to help us get the funding, not only the funding, but to help us with New York State, the environmental laws, help us with our local town and village planning boards. That construction project that Nassau County is already behind the university on is our #1 project, and that will mean continued success for our university. And number two, I'd like to bring to your attention, it's already been mentioned by Nick, Nassau County IDA has been very helpful the last couple of years. NYIT has been pursuing the development of a research facility in terms of cyber research and development. We have a close relationship with the National Security Agency. We're the only university qualified on Long Island to a variety of National Security Agency standards. So our top 25 engineering school has a focus on cyber research and development. We intend on establishing a cyber research facility either on our Old Westbury campus or in conjunction with the Nassau County IDA in close proximity to our Old Westbury campus, where we'll pair up with industry tech partners such as IBM. We have a close and abiding relationship with IBM and their big data program. We've got a number of other high-tech companies we plan on bringing into this research incubator. And much like you see at Cal Poly or Caltech or MIT, these incubators have a tendency to spin off separate LLCs and for-profit businesses, and that's our intention here in Nassau County. So from the perspective of NYT, we want to thank Nassau County very much for your support in terms of helping us pursue our large construction project in Old Westbury. And number two, we want to really thank the Nassau County IDA for their continuing support on helping us find a research space for our cyber research facility. Thank you very much.
I just wanted to give you a compliment. I've been hearing very good things about your Parkinson's treatment center as well, and I unfortunately know a number of people that go there regularly, but it's excellent. So.
We are very proud of the Parkinson's. In fact, I wasn't going to speak to our medical program today, if I can add one more thing. We're also getting ready to stand up a new sports injury clinic at NYIT. So we're very proud of our medical programs. It's really the crown jewel of our university. I encourage everybody to come out to Old Westbury and visit it. It's a tremendous group of young men and women going to school there. We also have extensive research labs there as well, NIH funded. But today's focus is to thank you for our construction program on our new residence halls and our new cyber research facility, which we hope to get up and going this year. Thanks very much, folks.
I thank you very much for your comments, and really, NYIT, it's a great partnership, but also, with the IDA, Nick Tazzulli had mentioned about, like after Sandy, the work that they did, we had a lot of businesses that basically went underwater, and that was reality of it, and, by their initiatives, they were able to help bring a lot of businesses back. So I'm always happy, and this is like, I guess, to capitalize on everybody's success and your energy to say, how do we then move forward and what else can we create here in Nassau County? Because even with your research, and I'll give a plug in for diabetes research, that if you're doing so well with Parkinson's, how about, especially with childhood diabetes? There's a lot of research that needs to be done, and if we can do it right here in Nassau County, I think we'll all be the better for it. So I thank you very much, and NYIT. All right, so moving on, we're now going to hear from Eric Alexander from Vision Long Island. Okay. Yes.
Well, thank you, Legislative Ford, for holding the hearing, and Presiding Officer Gonzalez, and many of you we've worked very closely with. And I know, Legislative Ford, you worked so closely with the small businesses in your district post-Sandy to really bring job opportunities back, and that's been just tremendous. And Comptroller Maragos, your report hit our summit last November with 1,100 businesses, government, community leaders, and it was a hot topic, and certainly you were able to present your information, and certainly has opened up a lot of eyes as far as bringing some of the information you're hearing from some of the speakers before me in the healthcare clusters that we're not certainly aware about the way we should. So I think there's some real opportunities. And I'm glad here to be at the Nassau Ledge today talking about healthcare clusters and job opportunities, not talking about casinos. So we're glad to hear that. This is a higher form of economic development. We understand, however, the economic crisis the county's faced and county residents have faced in many years. It's been painful for small businesses. It's been painful for folks who own homes, who lost credit. Job and housing opportunities are limited. Some people are leaving our region. People are spending less, and they have diminished expectations. So while the unemployment numbers are lower, and certainly the county's done a fantastic job in a lot of different areas, there is a struggle in the public. There's really, in general, a lack of public trust or a diminished public trust in government and institutions. And a lack of trust in big solutions and big ideas and big regional planning. I think we're seeing a hyper-local approach emerge. There was a poll just released today saying that people trust their local government to solve problems in higher percentages and manage tax dollars and other things. So what's good about a hearing like this is that there's trust in local government and the county certainly to move some things forward on the local level. So I'm glad we're having this conversation in a local framework. So let me move from the negative stuff to some good economic news. We know, our organization knows that there are folks who want to invest in Nassau County. They are investing in Nassau County. There are developers, small and large, want to build mixed use, want to do multifamily housing, want to bring jobs in. On the industrial side, there is interest, and there's entrepreneurs and small businesses that want to set up shop in our downtowns and Main Street. So that's the good news. There's energy, people are buying property, people are seeking to rezone, people are seeking consensus in local communities, and we're glad to see that. The other good news is these forms of development we see are coming online are going to be tax positive compared to other single-use forms of development in Nassau County over time. Mixed-use development provides 2 to 10 times the amount of property and sales tax revenue than single-use suburban redevelopment. One example of that is in downtown Huntington Village, Suffolk County example, but 2 of the developments that we help plan and track in the village bring, for the same amount of property, $220,000 to $350,000 per acre versus the $775,000 to $87,000 per acre in single-use development within that downtown village. And certainly we can track this and talk to tax assessors all over the island and see that, again, we're bringing this type of development, brings more robust opportunities into the downtown areas. There's certainly a reduction in more efficient use of infrastructure and municipal costs and less school kids that come in with this new form of development, so we're happy to see that. We also see benefits to small businesses. Some of the new developments that's gone in Glen Cove, in downtown Glen Cove, there's been a 10% increase in business activity there. In downtown Farmingdale, some of the new transit-oriented development that has moved in that we helped plan, 21 shops opened out of the 26 vacancies that were there within 6 months of the approval. So we're going to see this activity as these projects come online. So that's the good news. So when we talk about these projects, what we're talking about, on Long Island over the last 8 years, 10,000 units of transit-oriented development have been approved. 6,500 in Nassau and 3,500 and change in Suffolk. 30 different communities in Nassau, nearly 30 communities, and almost 20 in Suffolk are either approved, planning, or actively trying to envision and get this type of investment in their main streets. So again, it's at every town, of Hempstead, Oyster Bay, Hempstead, Glen Cove, Long Beach. There's a lot of activity. So on the residential and mixed-use development side, we're seeing multifamily rental, mixed-use development, some condos, but different forms of housing come online to feed the main streets. So what does this also do? There's an office market in the downtown area. The vacancy rates are lower on main streets than they are in office parks. So what that means is folks want to be on Main Street. They don't want their grandfather's office park. They want to be near activities, bars, restaurants, shops, other services, maybe live close by or certainly be close to the train station, get into the city where there's more activity in life. You'll hear a lot from Peter Goldsmith and Launchpad. They're just a fantastic entity that is doing this. This is an academic theory. This is real. This is happening live as we speak. And we're excited to work very closely with them. Niche retail. Restaurants are driving Main Street redevelopment. Others supporting niche retail around it. Again, I'm a cigar guy, so I go to every downtown cigar shop. But whatever you like doing. There's a wine bar in my downtown. There's all different activities that are happening on Main Street, and I think we want to encourage that. The retail market's going to change. The demographics. This isn't just any one demographic. There's millennials that want this, and again, you're going to hear from Jeff Gio and Sky and Jean Marie. They have a conference on suburban jobs and millennial jobs happening. We have a youth summit out in Dowling College. A lot of the high school kids are showing this trend line. AARP, seniors have produced reports that say they want to stay on Long Island. They do want to, some want to stay in their homes, some want to stay in their communities with different housing options. They are economically anxious of their future and their prospects here. So there needs to be things done to keep that market segment and all their purchasing power here on the island. So it's not just about the young people, it's about the seniors too. Also, it's about the new immigrant startup businesses. We're seeing, there was a report just released that the small business sector has a real robust amount of new immigrant businesses, and not just restaurants, just about every trade. Again, filling up main streets as well, so that's exciting. And again, we heard some I think there was another poll that was mentioned, but we do polls every 2 years. We do SUNY Stony Brook, and the preference for living in downtowns has started when we did the poll originally 30%. It's now up to 46%. Nassau County is 52%. Suffolk, not as much. Folks want to be more rural out there, and that's okay. We're real believers that folks live where they want to. This is America. They have choices, and communities are not a monoculture. There's all different forms of communities. So let me wrap my general comments and say what's an action plan moving forward. And there's many things you're doing already and things you could do to assist to bring job opportunities down here. First off, the IDA should just keep doing what it's doing. There's 1,200 units of the 6,500 units approved in the last number of years that the IDA supported. We have begged the county in past years to support multifamily and mixed-use development. This administration has done that. We're thankful of that. The project in Farmingdale wouldn't move forward because it was delayed for many years without that support. So we definitely thank the IDA. And we'd also say that right now IDAs, local IDAs are under attack by the state, and there's maybe regulations that change their ability to do things. So there's questions regarding that. So let's protect the Nassau IDA so they can do what they need. Infrastructure and water. The Bay Park treatment plant that you've moved forward is certainly going to help the Hempstead redevelopment and other redevelopments throughout Nassau County. Other things you do to upgrade Cedar Creek and protect the water supply are critical. We know that the county's working on that right now. We're glad to be briefed by Presiding Officer Gonzalez on that point at our board meeting the other day. Thank you. We know there's support for complete streets. We have to, if you're going to have people walking and have people in downtowns and jobs, you need to have our roads safe. That's key. You need to have other forms of transportation. Bus service. You need to invest more dollars in your bus system to keep a state match at the level that it is and to keep the routes going to get people to work. That's key. We did hear reference to a report that was done many years ago with the Nassau Hub. This current version of the report is excellent, as we agree with Rich Guardino. And through many years of struggle and trying to get that report out the door, this one has a lot of great transportation options. I think some of those concepts are in George Magros' report, Joel Magros' report, but there will be federal funds for alternate transportation systems, and whether it be BRT or other things, and I think we want to take advantage of them, certainly get the applications in for funding. I'll get to that in a minute. We resist the urge to keep planning and planning and planning. I think we got to get to a place where we implement and execute, and I think, the other night in Baldwin, there's a complete street study moving forward. We're glad to see that, but we got to get the physical improvements, and that's really key. And this gets to, let me just say, in the state legislative session, there's also a piece of legislation that's up, the Small Business Save Act, which is essentially a IRA, a small business IRA, to keep capital improvements from your small business into putting those dollars back into your business tax-free. So we want that's up. Passed the Senate last year, and passed the Assembly. That's something I know it's the county certainly can express support for that on a different level of government. But at the end of the day, we need to work with our federal, state governments to get our fair share. This is something Legislative Presiding Officer Gonzalez said very clearly at our board meeting. And again, you run down the numbers. In New York State, with 16% of the population pay 20% of the taxes. We get 3% back from EFC, 10% back with Economic Environmental Facilities Board, 10% back in economic development, 12% back in transportation, 13 to 14% back in education, and then in this most recent $5 billion settlement, only 3% back. And there are so many needs and issues, and we're paying into the system. We should be able to see strategic investments. We have a lobby coalition that's going up with a couple legislators are joining us, Legislator Curran and Bono. We welcome others to join us in Albany on Tuesday to lay out some infrastructure recommendations to the state to try to get our fair share. So, but at the end of the day, just to boil it down, we want to see the controls vision implemented, the healthcare cluster. Again, I don't know about healthcare, I don't know about education. We organization focuses on transportation, economic development, downtowns, and housing. So these areas are very critically important. I'm glad there's smart people thinking about them. We want to see this type of vision move forward. We do need to limit a lot of the mandates and regulations that are stifling growth. We do need to work hyper-local to build up trust in communities so that the changes are good and people people will then embrace them. And we need to also have amenities in place. It's not all just about housing and jobs. We need to have amenities in place to make our communities more appealing so folks want to stay here. Arts, culture, parks, music, just the things that make life great. We need to have those, and as part of the vision, to keep our people here, our residents here, but really attract employees. When you look at the best places to live, it's not just about bricks and mortar. It's about the elements of places. And that ranges. And the good thing about Long Island and Nassau County, I'll just end with this, is that there's not a monoculture. You can have a historic community or a more lively bar and restaurant community, or you can have a community that has a lot of office space and jobs and kind of bustling in that regard, or a community that's close to beaches and other things. We have all types of opportunities here for all different types of Americans, Long Islanders, and we need to embrace that and sell that, and market that. But we have that opportunity to do that. So I'm so glad you're doing this hearing, and thanks for your good work.
Thank you, Eric. You brought up a lot of good points, and but I also envision then, because we all agree that the money that we get back from New York State always falls short, and I'm very protective of this county, and I always see that it seems like Suffolk always gets more money than we do.
Except for with the buses.
but we need to bring more money in, and in a way, when I look at this, and we've had a lot of successes, and I know with a lot of hard work on your part as well, with our universities, our hospitals, we have a lot of great stuff going on here. But sometimes I think that maybe if we follow the vision of creating a health and medical cluster, then we can then give this vision up to Governor Cuomo and say that this is, if you invest in this is a real life project that we're doing, something that if you give us this money and help us with this, not only will we be able to create jobs, we'll get greater economic benefit, and not only will it help the county, but it will ultimately help New York State as well. Because I think that if we can reverse the trend and, and then create, better housing opportunities. I know that a lot of the components, like when schools want students, they need to have housing for them. If they're in areas and they need doctors or nurses to work there, they do provide housing for them. So I look also to say that maybe once the hub is built and we can work on that, maybe get the parking structure in there, just as Mr. Godino said, that if we can then do a research center, maybe even in that campus also provide some sort of housing, affordable housing, not something that's high-end, but something that will be very attractive to, because a lot of times when people start out working, whether or not as PAs or nurses or doctors, they're not really at the higher end of the scale of salaries. They're usually at the lower, and they do have student loans. So if we can all work together and make sure that we can keep those young people here, they could work, have adequate housing, and then from there we could build it and make better communities with a lot of nightlife or whatever. I know the benefit of it. I live in Long Beach, so I live in the West End. Trust me. And we've seen it diverse. We've seen, now we're getting at a Thai restaurant, now we're getting Japanese, we're getting Indian. So we're seeing that there is a lot more opportunities, and it's just more happening, and I really appreciate it. So I thank you. I'm sorry, the next speaker we have, I don't know if he's still here, Mr. Martin Cantor from the Long Island Center for Socio-Economic Policy. And so I guess he had to leave. How about Sky, I'm going to say this name wrong, Sky Ostraker and Jeff Bullock, Suburban Millennial Institute. And I apologize if I really killed your name.
My college French professor got Guillaume wrong, so I'm used to it, don't worry about it. All right, well, thanks very much, Legislator Szilagyi, Legislator Ford, for holding this hearing today, and thank you to the Nassau County Comptroller for putting together what was a very eye-opening and insightful report regarding the need for millennial retention here in Nassau County. And it is our distinct pleasure, representing the Suburban Millennial Institute, to be, other than I believe Legislator Szilagyi, the first members of the millennial cohort to present at this particular hearing. And I personally live the suburban millennial dream. I actually live in a cool downtown area that has been blessed with a lot of transit-oriented development. So I see every day firsthand the importance of what we're all trying to do here and jointly trying to accomplish. The Suburban Millennial Institute, by way of introduction, is a nonpartisan think tank that works on the issues of millennial retention and family support in Nassau and Suffolk counties. And we've diligently tried to bring light to the fact of the plight of suburban millennials, and I think that over the past few years there has been broad consensus over what the issue is and what we ultimately have to do. And in both the report issued by the Nassau Comptroller and also the report issued by the Long Island Index not long ago, there are three pieces ultimately of the suburban millennial puzzle that are presented. And I think there's consensus around the issues that were raised by Eric just now regarding transit-oriented development and the need to build our downtowns and use them to attract millennials. And I think that's something that we agree on both sides of the aisle, both counties, that this is the future and we need to build denser and grow. Furthermore though, the other piece of the puzzle here is that the Long Island Index talks about this and the Comptroller's report both talk about this. And one of the big issues we're going to confront is affordability. Property taxes are still a huge burden on millennial homeownership, and they're one of the primary reasons why you see this mass exodus of millennial population on the North Shore and the South Shore. There are reports that indicate that in places like Syosset and Great Neck, you're seeing 25% of your millennials are leaving over the course of 10 years. And that's a number that already, according to the index, is down to 10.9% of the overall population in Nassau County. But at the same time, you can't talk about the plight of suburban millennials unless you also realize that in the center of Nassau County, the population is growing. And so so this issue is a multifaceted approach. Yes, we have this mass exodus that is important to discuss, but also you have a growing sector of the population as well. But overall, affecting the affordability issue and finding a way to lower property taxes is the most difficult piece of this puzzle. What the index suggests is consolidating or dissolving local government entities. And there doesn't seem to be a citizen will among the electorate to do that for a variety of reasons. The services are usually quite good. So as a result, if we're not going to be able to affect affordability in a serious way, and we agree on the transit-oriented development piece, that comes to the final piece of the puzzle, which with both the Comptroller and and the index mentioned, and that's retention and job creation. And we completely agree with the notion that it is critical to expand the healthcare sector, and I applaud notions to do that. I think the important thing we have to discuss here, and Eric touched on it, is that the $10 billion that the Comptroller mentions is going to be a little difficult to find. We're not going to find $10 billion in the county's couch cushions, unfortunately. And as a result, we have to rely on cooperation by our federal and state partners in order to accomplish this goal. I think there's consensus that we have to expand this sector, but exactly how we do it and how we fund it, and how local government can work with the federal government that can give infrastructure grants, and the state, which has a $5 billion surplus, to actually achieve this. And currently, the most we're getting out of the surplus right now is a parking garage in Nassau Coliseum, which is great, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot more that we can do here. So one thing we would love to do is to start a working group to try to figure out exactly what kind of policy changes and what funding streams are available to be able to achieve exactly what the Comptroller is talking about here. There needs to be a concerto of movement between all layers of government and all affected parties to try to figure out exactly how we're going to do this. And I think that's the most important takeaway here. If you can bring the employees here, that's only one piece of the puzzle as well. We still have a problem where we've lost a tangible amount of our population from the North Shore and the South Shore. And one thing that we have long encouraged is that Long Island as a region embrace some of the things that other parts of the country have done to attract more young families. The city of Baltimore is a fantastic example. Over the last 2 years, the city of Baltimore, realizing that they were losing population to other metro centers throughout the region in record numbers, launched an ambitious program to try to retain 10,000 new families over the next 10 years. They didn't care where these families came from as long as they came to Baltimore and ultimately contributed to the tax base. And they've done a great number of things to do that, and I think that Nassau County can work with both the Department of Homeland Security and also the New York State Office of New Americans, which is headed up by a fellow named Jorge Montalvo, who himself is a millennial, in order to get this done and find a way to attract more families to this area in order to hopefully work in the jobs that we're going to create with this synergy as the comptroller describes. So that's just a brief synopsis of a lot of the things I think we can do, and it's clear to us that the jobs piece is the most malleable of the three pieces we're talking about today. We agree on transit-oriented development. We agree that we're not going to be streamlining government anytime soon, and so the missing piece of the puzzle is how we can attract employers and retain millennials. Now, my colleague Sky is going to talk about the fact that we do in fact have a conference coming up and walk through the format of that. Hofstra University has been a fabulous partner with us in trying to bring awareness to the issues that I'm talking about here today. Go for it.
Hi, yes. Thank you for having us here today, legislators, and thank you, Controller Maragos. Yes, we are having a conference that's open to the public. We want to encourage as many people to attend as possible on Long Island. It's hosted at Hofstra on Friday, March 13th, and we will have 3 panels there that day. A panel focused on public sector employment, private sector employment, and then a panel of millennial-aged entrepreneurs talking about businesses that they've formed themselves here on the island. So I hope to see everyone there that day. We have it in the Student Center Theater at Hofstra University.
What hours?
At 8 o'clock in the morning until noon. And our keynote speaker will be Congressman Lee Zeldin, a millennial himself, and Joan Kuhl, the founder of an organization called Why Millennials Matter. And she speaks to the employer and to the employees, the millennial generation. And I think it would be awesome if anyone has any ideas at all in order to get more millennials engaged in politics in general. You know, you look around the room, like how many young people are here. And a lot of it is because of the time of day. If millennials are working, they don't have off in the middle of the day to come to a meeting like this. But then there's the question, would they come at night or would they come in the morning? So I think it's a conversation that not only a millennial such as myself needs to think about with other millennials, but for everyone to participate and think about what's the best way to engage young people. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, and I realize that you were the subject of a Newsday article with Young Exodus Feared, because they reference you and many of your comments in this. I guess you must have spoken at Molloy College.
Yes.
Yes, okay. And you're right, we need a lot more young people, to be able to get engaged, not only on the business level, but hopefully on the political level. We lost our millennial, Mr. Venditto ended up getting elected to the state senate, so he was like the youngest, I think, out of all of us, and he's moved on. But, and you too, right, I keep forgetting about him, because he doesn't have gray hair. But, and I think you're right. But you're right, and this is, I think, the focus of like why, we're embracing or entertaining at least the report issued by the Maragos, because maybe by not only just providing jobs, but basically good paying jobs. Because how do you expect to live here if you're only, like a lot of times you can get jobs at $8.75 an hour, $10.50 an hour, but what kind of a lifestyle do you have? We need to make sure that we bring them in, and I know that the IDA talked about this one group, $95,000 a year on an average for their salaries, which is great. But we need to do more because of a lot of our young people they do seem to believe it, and I'm glad that you two are here. But you really need, we need to partner with you because you're the voice. I mean, it'd be like, people look at me like my sons that are in their 20s, like I'm the blah, blah, blah person. But, because there she goes nagging me again. But if they can get their contemporaries to talk about this, then I think that there's a way of networking with them and hearing their ideas and working on that. All of you speak the same language, but thank you very much.
No problem, thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. The next speaker is Mr. Peter Goldsmith from ListNet.
You have to leave.
I want to thank the controller for inviting me here today to address you. ListNet stands for Long Island Software and Technology Network. We're an organization to promote the software and IT industry on Long Island. We started about 18 years ago, and we have about 1,000 companies that are members. So everyone has heard of Silicon Valley and Silicon Alley. We're working to create Silicon Island on Long Island. Software and IT are the companies that are going to be growing, and we feel will give the resurgence for Nassau and Suffolk County. So if you just think about some of the things that have created Silicon Alley and made New York City the #2 IT area in the world, they have an angel network. So we created here on Long Island the Long Island Angel Network that invests in technology companies. They have the TechStars, which is a mentoring organization to help startup tech companies. So we created Connects here on Long Island, connected organization, mentoring exciting tech startups. And then they have co-working facilities. Tech people like to work together, rubbing shoulders with each other. So 2 years ago, Andrew Hazen, myself, we created Launchpad right here in Mineola, right next to the train station. We started with just a few offices. If you go into it now, we have to keep building new offices. They're full. We have about 35 to 40 offices filled, packed. And as was mentioned before, a lot of our young people are coming from New York City, getting off the Long Island Railroad, and coming to work here. About a year ago this month, we created another one in Huntington. No train station, but a great environment for the young people. We are now, thanks to Tim Kamen, brought Mayor Jean to see the Mineola Launchpad about a year ago, and she said, I want one in Great Neck. We're working on that. It's now being built. The IDA gave some funding for it, and it should be open next month. So that'll be the third. We've been talking to the mayor in Farmingdale and creating another Launchpad in Farmingdale. What are Launchpads again? Are co-working facilities. You go in, you see young people working crazy hours. I'm wearing a tie today. They all make fun of me. They're wearing all kinds, flip-flops, you name it, working and creating the kinds of jobs you see in New York City. We create events like Shark Tank, demo nights. We work with the Angel Network in order to get the funding. These companies need the mentoring. We work with the colleges, whether it's Hofstra, New York Institute of Technology, Stony Brook out in Suffolk County. Creating and keeping the young people here, working in the right kinds of environment, going out to the towns that Eric has helped create, making these towns viable, and having the housing now that's being built. So the Launchpads, what we're all trying to do, and I have a meeting upstairs trying to create something, a tech tax team here from Long Island, getting the notoriety. If you look what happened in New York City, the mayor, the former mayor, was a great proponent and made that happen. It wasn't there a couple years ago. You had Silicon Alley really being one building. It's now spread out. There's no reason we can't do that on Long Island. We have all the means, we have the colleges, we have the support of the controller's office and everyone else making things happen. It'll make the towns more viable. It'll keep the young people here with the kinds of jobs that they can afford the housing and the taxes, and the millennials will stay here. In case you didn't notice, I'm not a millennial. I know some people might think so, but I am fighting for them because I want my son to stay here and I want the others to stay here. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. That was very enlightening. And I think, if my memory serves me correctly, because I used to work in the Wall Street, I was down in the Wall Street area, and I think one of the first places that focused on, the internet and technology, and with all these young people dealing with the internet, might have been 67 Broad Street. I think that used to be.
It was for 55, 67, but exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, Bill Rudin, his building.
Yeah.
He then created with us out in Great River, the Long Island Tech Center, which then got sold out. But we've now, like I said, with Andrew Hazen, and we've created these launch pads. And these launch pads can spread to all the towns. But, and as I said, the next one we want to do is in Farmingdale. Great Neck is going to open next month. And you have to come right down the block. Right next to the train station is the one in Mineola. 2 years ago, this month, it opened just because some young people wanted things to happen. And they made it happen. And it's now spreading. And that's what's going to make, I think, Long Island and give the growth along with all the other projects that you've all mentioned, and with the health care and everything else are so important.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just remember, Long Beach and Island Park, you know, you could set up a launch
We
pad.
talk with one
Trust me, we have a beach, we have a great nightlife, and I think that'll probably be the best place for all.
We've already talked with the Economic Development Director, so,
Okay, thank
And
you.
Thank
also
you.
Valley Stream, we're just 30 minutes away from New York City. Valley Stream, thank you.
Okay, oh, sorry. The next speaker, I don't know if he's still here, Rick Murdaco from Community Development Corporation of Long Island. Thank you, I know it's taken longer than we expected. Appreciate your patience.
Just to clarify for the record, I have since moved on from CDC Long Island, and now I write on land use and policy issues for my website, thehobbyistidea.org. So, good afternoon. My name is Richard Murdaco. I'm a lifelong Long Islander, and at 28, am a young professional who is currently building a life in the region. I regularly write on land use policy and economic development issues, with my work appearing in Newsday, Long Island Business News, Long Island Press, Pacific Standard Magazine, and various other regional and national publications. I'm here today to present a vision of Nassau County that runs counter to a narrative that has slowly been established over the last 10 years. The Comptroller's report cites stagnant population growth in the county from the year 2000 to 2013. But it's important to remember that Nassau's population has been relatively unchanged since the 1970s. Comparing fast-growing Queens or Suffolk with its 42,000 acres of vacant open space and half the population density to Nassau, an older suburb, can be unproductive. With just over 4,000 acres of vacant land, Nassau's land use patterns are set, and the opportunity to shoehorn more people is limited thanks to environmental and infrastructure limitations. By trying to attract more people, the county is wasting energies that can be put forth attracting new industries. In creating a sustainable economic plan, it is important to not get caught up in generalizations and anecdotal analysis of demographic trends, but rather base the vision on the best available data sets and proper professional analysis. The Comptroller's report does have merit. Creating a cluster of medical and healthcare industries will be a worthwhile endeavor, but we need to go beyond those efforts. Our region needs to be insulated from larger economic and demographic shifts, and investment in just one industry is a risky proposition. When Grumman scaled down their operations in the late 1980s, the regional economy was left reeling. This highlights the vulnerability of, quote, putting our eggs in one basket. The county needs a vision to put forth to have a diverse, multifaceted economy that can withstand multiple periods of growth and recession. To echo the sentiments shared by the most recent Long Island Index report, our investment in the biomedical industries must focus on our region's unique existing assets and research centers. It should be the goal of the county not to compete with New York City to the west or Suffolk to the east, but rather create a strategy that complements the strengths of each of these areas, while filling the gaps of regional need. The economic vision must include an honest assessment of what the county has, what it needs, and realistic ways to implement these goals. Further, it must rise above the noise put forth by stakeholder groups with a vested interest in pursuing one approach over another. These groups favor buzzwords over analysis, as well as narratives over on-the-ground realities and the needs and wants of Nassau, Suffolk, and Long Island's residents. Comptroller's report is a good step in the right direction. There's still much work to be done.
You're absolutely right, sir, and I think we all learned from putting all our eggs in one basket, especially with Grumman, because when we saw that the lack of jobs, what was like 40,000, but actually, Ed Mangano, when he was a legislator over in that district in Bethpage, he was able to bring in some industries into the Grumman space and created about 15,000 jobs to offset the loss. And I think that even like the focus on this, by making the medical campus, it's not just to the exclusion of, just focusing on that. As you could tell, Launchpad, I mean, if we could look at other industries as well, to bring it in and maybe create other types of campuses as well, I think that would be...
One of the most innovative ways that the county has nurtured economic development has been by inviting the film industry in. And just as a policy analyst, I found that to be brilliant, especially citing, what was it, $16,000 a week in bagels alone.
Yeah.
It's options like that we need to look at, but it's all about balance. So if we throw all of our eggs in TOD, remember, there's environmental constraints as well. We have the sole source aquifer, even though Nassau County is sewered, it doesn't matter, because there's still environmental impacts to land usage. And we should follow Suffolk County's example, which while Nassau doesn't have the room to grow, we have to look on the ways to target that growth without just throwing density at the problem. That's not going to be the solution. Look at the trouble, say, in Syosset at the Cerro Wire factory. They want to put a mall there, that was shot down. In Plainview, they are looking to intensify the county land there, it's running into trouble. TOD should go where it belongs, and since the 1960s, the first regional plan conducted by the Long Island Regional Planning Board, they targeted the downtowns, but in recent years there has been a trend where this, I guess the multifamily mixed-use model has spread beyond the downtown train station area, and that's just something that as policymakers I urge caution against.
All right, thank you very much.
Again, I commend you for being here. I appreciate your presentation. And I'm also impressed with the fact that we see a lot of young people here speaking on the record. We also have other people in the audience, such as Jean Marie and David Zapatino and Carl Potak. These are all young people who have publicly stated their position and shared a vision of how Nassau County and Suffolk and Long Island can change their future. I would encourage you to collaborate more, to be in contact with this committee and see how we could move forward together. The controls report, it's a great start, but it does lack certain attention to growth in other industries, the high-tech industry. The 20th century model of growing in just one industry may work. It may have worked in the last century, but now going forward, we need to see growth, a diversification of development in multiple industries.
A positive trend that I've been seeing since I started following these issues in graduate school was that there is more discussion. And it's important that that conversation continues to be nurtured at this level. And I do agree with my colleagues at the Suburban Millennial Institute that the timing of these hearings and just, I guess, government in general sometimes can be troublesome for young professionals looking to try to avoid taking time off. I'm privileged that I was able to take the proper time off from work.
So that you're saying that local government must change too, and not just change us as its population it serves.
Yes.
And so addressing and having a real conversation about multifamily dwelling and housing is important, and to realize the political limitations being put on that important need.
I also feel that I wrote an op-ed for Newsday in 2012 that I've seen that local government should expand their use of social media outreach. And since then, townships, I think Babylon, Islip, and maybe Huntington in Suffolk County.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think we have too much government here in Nassau County? Village, town, county, state? Do you think we have too much government that, in essence, would prohibit the adequate growth that we need?
As a regional planner, from my perspective, I feel that if you can get all of these levels of government in harmony to execute a vision, no. But if that's an obstacle, maybe. But you have to look at data sets and the inputs there before making just a broad statement by saying, yes, there is too much government. Because if you go into the village of Westbury, where they're very proud of their police power of controlling land use, I don't think that they would agree with that.
I agree. It was a question. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And keep in touch with us, all right? I like your insight. Okay, please, thank you. All right, the next speaker is Jean Marie Smith, Destination Long Island.
Good afternoon, everyone, and again, thank you for having me today, and I'm excited to speak in front of you. Destination LI is an organization that focuses on the millennial generation. It was a group of us who had advocated, networked together, and wanted to see more of us stay here on Long Island, live, work, play, stay, and have a future here. And as we started to see what we needed as a generation, job growth, more diverse housing stock, we realized that this is really what Long Island needs to seek economic development. So those are our two main focuses as an organization, and we do that by collectively working with other organizations, Vision, the Suburban Millennial Institute, to name just two of them. And I know most of what we're all kind of saying has been, repeated multiple times today, so I don't want to do that. And I think that one of the things we should focus on is speaking to others. We need to educate Long Island's residents as to the positive of responsible development. We're not talking about in your backyard and dismantling the diverse suburban beautifulness that Long Island is known for, but we're saying proper development in areas like by the train stations. These are places that we need to focus on. The other things that I think we need to work towards is an expedited secret process. Model it off. California is doing that right now, and so that we can see projects move along quicker. We actually worked very closely with an organization called the Site Selectors Guild. They're responsible for 85% of corporate relocation nationally. So what they're saying to us is that businesses are looking for shovel-ready projects. And if we're not doing the job as Nassau County to market that to businesses, we're not going to attract them here. So something like the expedited secret process would help attract businesses to Long Island. Another thing that I think we can do better, and it happens in San Diego, is collectively work together. Again, you're hearing so many different individuals or organizations talking about the great things that they're doing, and the IDA spoke about the wonderful, business and show business industry that's here in Long Island, and we're talking about expanding the medical field. What other residents on Long Island know about that? I think we need to do a better job of marketing us to the nation and saying, here's a collective voice with these great organizations, and this is what's happening. Come to Nassau County or stay in Nassau County to our young adults, because not only is it not attainably priced for us to stay here, but it's also not welcoming. We're not letting that generation know that we want them to stay here. They're our greatest investment, the highest educated generation of all time, and yet we're just letting them go elsewhere and boom the economic landscape of other places, opening small businesses and having families there. So I think if we do a better job of marketing the good things that are happening in Nassau County, we can see a change there. So I stress for us to also think outside the box, be a little bit more innovative. We talk about workforce housing and subsidized housing, but most millennials don't fit into that salary baseline. We make too much money, but we're not taking into account the debt-to-income ratio like mortgages do. So we maybe introduce something like micro-housing, so building smaller unit apartments that would then bring the price down for individuals to live in. Actually, the mayor of Westbury brought that up at Long Island Index event, and I was very encouraged to hear him do so, because that's an innovative, out-of-the-box thought process that we can welcome these rental options to the millennials here on Long Island. Essentially, we're living in those illegal basement apartments anyway, so why not do it in a legal format where we're contributing to the tax base, as well as the incubator spaces that are going on. Most small businesses that are being opened are done with just our Macs, our iPhones, our iPads. We don't need the large square footage in terms of workspace, so more incubator, collaborative thought box kind of product would be great. So Destination LI welcomes the opportunity to work closely with you. I know the county executive has launched his Nassau 200 plan, which is trying to create a cabinet towards for him and his staff to kind of work together on what the young adults need, and hopefully maybe we can do something of the same here. I know that Jeff and Sky would like to get involved in that as well. So let's think outside the box and let's market Nassau County appropriately. Thank you.
I thank you very much, and I know, I guess one of the things we have to take into consideration is maybe having one of these meetings in the evening.
Correct.
So that it make it easier for our younger adults to be here, and which is because we need to hear from you. And I think some of your recommendations are great.
Yeah, let's live stream it, let's put it on Twitter, let's make a hashtag about it, because that's the way we're going to engage this generation.
It is being live streamed right now.
Oh, it is? Oh, that's great.
But Jean Marie, again, I want to thank you for your presentation. Hopefully with this committee hearing, we can move forward with further recommendations or reports that stems, of course, from the report provided from the controller. But perhaps there are other solutions, because you presented some solutions, and those are great ideas. How about a circuit breaker tax protection for our young people? Or how about, appointing development czar? I mean, we really need to have one plan and stick to that plan. And as they say, failure to plan is like planning to fail.
Yes, and working together to make sure that we're implementing those plans. Eric said it very well. We're all continually talking about the issues, but let's start implementing them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Trying to figure out that.
All right, next speaker, last speaker, I guess is Dave Capel, the Roush Foundation. Thank you for your patience.
Last but not least. Good afternoon. I'm Dave Capel, speaking on behalf of the Roush Foundation, based in Garden City. I'm a consultant to the foundation, and I'm also a former elected official on Long Island, having served as mayor of the village of Greenport from 1994 to 2007. Through my work with the foundation, I am continuing my long-standing interest and commitment to the future economic health of Long Island. Also, I want to take a minute to talk about hair color. You know, there's been a lot of talk about hair color. I just want to put it on the record, I'll take any hair I can get. I don't care what color it is. It's a pleasure to speak with you today on the development of business in Nassau County. I want to commend Controller Maragos for his initiative in undertaking this important subject, and specifically leveraging our university, hospital, and business infrastructure to grow economic development in Nassau County. In that connection, I draw your attention to a report released earlier this month by the Long Island Index, a project of the Roush Foundation. The report, titled Long Island's Future, Economic Implications of Today's Choices, examines the impacts of Long Island-wide initiatives that could address some of the region's most intractable economic issues. Accompanying the report is a series of interactive maps created by CUNY Graduate Center's mapping service, enabling the public to explore how individual communities and the region have changed over the past 40 years to create today's economic and housing situation. I draw your attention to these maps. They're extraordinary and incredibly illuminating of the trends the macro trends that have affected the island over the last 30 to 40 years. They're available on our website, longislandindex.org. The report highlights the economic stagnation confronting Long Island, including the fact that jobs are projected to grow over the next 25 years at a lower rate in the 1990s than in the 1990s and 2000s. The report then offers a strategy for ending that stagnation. It's a two-pronged strategy of simultaneously strengthening the biomedical industry and multifamily housing. Long Island's biomedical industry is relatively small, but growing and highly concentrated compared to the nation. It includes such powerhouse resources as Cold Spring Harbor Lab, North Shore LIJ Health System, Brookhaven National Laboratory, and Stony Brook University. Developing multifamily housing in downtowns would maintain the suburban character of Long Island by preserving existing neighborhoods, farmland, and open space. At the same time, increased development in town centers can add a significant jolt of housing supply with more affordable and diverse options. A 2014 survey of Long Islanders by the Index revealed that a majority of Long Islanders support local high-density living opportunities in downtown areas. In 2010, the Long Island Index and the Regional Planning Association identified 8,300 acres within a half mile of existing Long Island Railroad stations and downtowns that are available for infill development. These are lands that right now are being used for surface parking. The air rights are unexploited above these parking lots. They're an unbelievable waste of very valuable land. And a lot of them exist right here in Nassau County. So that when you talk about a scarcity or a lack of land on which to redevelop, these parking lots offer an incredible opportunity right where you want them, near railroad stations. Pursuing simultaneously these two priorities, the biomedical industry and multifamily housing could produce impressive results for Long Island as compared to baseline trends. Our report projects between 44,500 and 73,000 new jobs by 2040, between 82,000 and 138,000 new residents by 2040, between 12,000 and 23,000 new residents aged 25 to 34, most important, by 2040, between 7.7 billion and 12.6 billion in new income, in 2040 and between 9.5 billion and 15.1 billion in new gross regional product in 2040. One of the case studies in the report focuses on the village of Westbury, which could accommodate significant fiscal positive development on 2 parcels adjacent to the Long Island Railroad Station. Once again, these are parking lots. In 2014, the Long Island Index released innovative designs for downtown parking structures in Long Island communities through the Parking Plus Design Challenge. And you can view these projects, by the way, at another one of our websites, buildabetterburg.org. Included was a proposal by LTL Architects titled Train Terraces to strengthen the connection between the Long Island Railroad and downtown Westbury. It was a mixed-use proposal. There were garage spaces on the lower floors, apartments, retail, offices, a whole plethora of uses. In our report, HR&A advisors conducted a high-level fiscal impact of the residential component of the proposal, which contemplated approximately 80 new housing units. The high-value development would generate substantial property tax revenue to the village, town, and county. New residents would also generate sales tax revenues to local governments through their retail spending. In total, the project would provide $810,000 in annual property tax, sales tax, and other revenues to local government, compared to an annual cost to those governments of $530,000 for a net fiscal benefit of $280,000. We mention this because this debunks the myth that redevelopment is going to be tax negative. Here's an opportunity to solve a problem, build on wasted land, create new housing, and generate new tax revenues for local government. Key to this strategy of expanding the biomedical industry and multifamily housing is that they must be pursued simultaneously. You cannot pick one and not the other. They're also tied to having enhanced transit and capacity to reverse commute from New York City to Long Island on the Long Island Railroad. That, by the way, is the subject of another Long Island Index report issued last year titled The Economic and Fiscal Impacts of the Long Island Railroad Main Line Third Track. It analyzes the extraordinary projected economic impact of adding an additional track to a 9.8-mile segment of the Long Island Railroad Main Line between Floral Park and Hicksville, to open the bottleneck that is currently restricting rail traffic and limiting opportunities for reverse communities. For reverse commuting. Right now, if you're not aware, between 6:30 in the morning and 8 o'clock in the morning, the peak rush hour time, it's a one-way street on the main line. No trains can pass eastbound during that critical hour. So reverse commuting is virtually impossible. It just can't happen under the current constraint. And I know a little bit about the main line, because as mayor of Greenport, I'm aware of the history of the development of the railroad. I don't know if many of you may not be aware, but the original line from Brooklyn to Greenport was built in 1844. And at that time, those 2 tracks that exist now between Floral Park and Hicksville are the same 2 tracks that are here today 170 years later. The population in 1844 of Long Island was 50,000. Today it's 3 million, same 2 tracks. It boggles the mind to think that how economic development can really occur if that condition is not addressed. Now I say that with full respect for the local concerns. I realize that this is a hot button issue in Nassau County, particularly for those communities that abut that line. But speaking as a former elected official, local elected official, I believe that there's a way to create a bottoms-up solution that takes the considerations and the concerns of those communities into mind, and at the same time unlocking the enormous economic development potential that's implicit in construction of the 3rd track. Biomedical companies, including startups, will grow on Long Island if they can attract the specialized talent they need. That talent, including recent college graduates, want affordable housing options. They want to live in active downtowns. They want easy access to New York City. In some cases, they want to live in the city and commute out, like some of the earlier speakers have spoken of. I have a son who lives in Brooklyn, and he would like to commute to a job on Long Island. He actually he considered a job in Hicksville. He couldn't do it. That bottleneck on the main line prevented it. We need to open that up, and Long Island must accommodate them or lose them to other regions. Nassau County has extraordinary resources and opportunities ahead. Taking full advantage of them means strengthening the biomedical industry, providing a broader range of housing options, and ensuring that the workers that businesses need can easily get to and from New York City. At the foundation, we call this a three-legged stool for success on Long Island. Biomed, housing options by rail stations, and improved transit by the third track. Thank you for focusing on this important issue. It's crucial to the economic future of Long Island and Nassau County. I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. You gave us a lot of information, and I'm just, I never realized, with the bottleneck, I live on the South Shore, and I was always wondering why the Long Island Railroad had never put in a north and south spur. It only seemed to go east and west with the Long Island Railroad, so.
Well, it's interesting, but the bias has always been, frankly, well, originally, to expand on it a little bit, Greenport, and I know this firsthand, Greenport developed, Greenport's really the original TOD project on Long Island, dating back to the mid-19th century. It was the development, it was the construction of that rail line that brought people to Greenport and fueled the boom that occurred there. I don't know if you're aware, but Greenport was the major economic hub on Long Island in the late 19th century. And the reason for that, the reason they brought the train to Greenport, people probably don't know this, is that was how you got to Boston by train. The only way to get to Boston from New York by train was to take the Long Island Railroad to Greenport, disembark onto a steamship, across Long Island Sound, then back on the train to Boston in Connecticut. It wasn't until after 1900 that they built the inland route. So for 50 years, Greenport was the ultimate transportation hub where all Boston-bound traffic from New York came. And that fueled our development. So, at that time when the railroad was built, it was bringing the traffic out this way. Then as things changed and suburbia evolved, it was going the other way. It's time to start thinking both ways. We need both those routes. We need a two-way street on the Long Island Railroad in order to succeed in the future, and in order to realize dreams like control airlines.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Sir, thank you very much for your presentation today. Discussing the third rail is like touching the third rail.
I realize that,
You're talking about intimate domain, you're talking about disrupting and dividing communities. There's a big discussion here.
It's a very difficult issue, legislator, and I offer this with full respect to that, having been in your position, if you will, on the firing line. But all that we're suggesting is it's time to look at it again. This is something, it's literally the future of the island that's at stake. And we don't want to destroy any communities, but on the other hand, I think if we sit down together and talk it through honestly and carefully, that a solution can be found that would satisfy everybody's needs. And that's what the foundation supports.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I was mistaken. I was corrected by my assistant. We do have one last speaker, and it's a representative from Long Island Index.
That was me.
That was you? Okay. Good, then I was correct, all right. Controller Maragos, do you just want to, you have other questions? And we do have a slip, and I know we're going to open up to public comments.
No, I don't have other, to make a comment. Wow, this has been an incredible hearing with, outstanding and thoughtful speakers. There's obviously tremendous energy here and opinions and ideas that I think we need to harness as quickly as possible, develop a coherent vision that we can all embrace and start investing in achieving it. I think we have a remarkable future that I think we need to, all of us collectively grasp. And I'm happy and I'm certain to be part of it, and I'll do my utmost to encourage it forward. And I want to thank you and this committee for having this hearing today and hopefully grabbing the ball now and running with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I know Legislator Solage just has a question.
Yes, Controller, thank you. Before the hearing began, I provided you some questions, and I wanted to provide you these questions instead of just asking them to you on the record, because I want to have more of a conversation. But I'd like to share these questions with my colleagues and with the clerk, and my staff also could provide copies to people here in the audience. But my first question to you is, as I understand it, your proposal is intended to make the economic future of Nassau County sustainable into the long range, and even to go beyond that, and make Nassau County a national economic leader. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. On a national level, one of the important figures we use to measure national economic health is the gross national product. Do we attempt to measure the gross county product or some other index of county economic health?
Yes, we do, and the best kind of reflection that most people relate to is our sales tax revenue, which is usually 8%, or in our case, 4%, because we share that with the state. So you bring total economic activity.
You bring up the sales tax. So if so, then what is the picture presented with regard to the gross annual product of Nassau County over the past 10 or 12 years?
Slowing growth.
Slowing growth. So if we went back over the past 20 years and we created a line graph that plotted combined taxes of the county, town, villages, combined costs of government of county, town, villages, gross county product, average income of residents, the cost of living in Nassau County, and if we took these lines and we extended them into the next 10 or 12 years on the assumption that the prior pattern will continue, in your professional opinion, would the economic future of Nassau County be sustainable?
No, it would not, and I think we're seeing the demographic results of those trends. And we all keep hearing about the high cost of living in Long Island relative to other areas.
So let's assume your plan that you propose would be put in place. Would that alone make Nassau County sustainable? Is your plan sustainable?
Well, I would hope that that's the dialogue that we should have, and I put forward a concept, an idea that I think needs further development. I think we've heard a number of additional excellent ideas, such as developing the Silicon Long Island, and I'm sure as we go forward in this debate and discussion, many more ideas are going to come forward that we should embrace, consider, and hopefully develop a comprehensive vision that we will invest.
So do you think that we should develop a clear statement of principles and objectives?
Absolutely.
Okay, we would then measure the proposals and the implementation against those principles and objectives, is that correct?
Yes, and that will determine the investment that we need to make, which is ultimately important to achieve those objectives.
Okay. So do you think the county should retain the services of urban planners who are experienced in both the theoretical and practical aspects of successfully planning for urban growth?
Absolutely.
Okay.
But I think it's important though that the initial creative ideas to guide those people have to start right here from this committee.
If the plan you have proposed were adopted and were implemented in a reasonable, efficient way, how long do you think it would be before the county started receiving material benefits of such a plan?
Immediately. Once we start building the infrastructure, upgrading our rail systems, investing our virtual IT infrastructure, investing in enhancing the research capabilities of our hospitals and universities, we're going to start seeing immediate beneficial impact.
I understand. When you mention information clusters for business relationships between universities, hospitals, national laboratories, that relationship always involves some sort of licensing and commercialization of cutting-edge technology. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And there are a lot of startups, and it's startup-driven technology, and that they read, excuse me, a cutting-edge, let me just read clearly. When you mention that there are clusters for business relationships between universities, hospitals, national laboratories, that relationship also involves licensing and commercialization of cutting-edge technology to entrepreneur-driven startups that then raise capital to fully commercialize and bring the new technology to the market? By working with the university or national lab that invented it. This continual types of commercialization is what creates the new companies and then new jobs. Your report doesn't really focus on any mention of technology commercialization and the continual relationship between entrepreneur startups and the university labs. If that's such an important dynamic in job creation, why did your report leave it out?
I think it's important to define the role that government plays in building the infrastructure and the environment, and leaving it up to private industry, the hospitals, universities, research centers, now the related industries around those institutions to bring forward the innovation and the ideas and the creativity.
I understand. Your plan would require a massive amount of both public and private capital. How much venture capital money has Nassau County startup companies raised in the last several years?
I don't have that information with me, but I'm sure it's not very significant compared to, say, the investment that is happening in the city and some of the other rapidly growing regions of the country.
How much would Nassau County startups have to increase its venture capital money raising to achieve the critical mass of economic activity that you outlined in your report?
Well,
you mentioned the number again.
I think if we can create an economic environment, a vision, and provide as a government at all levels the infrastructure to encourage attaining that vision, then all the other pieces are going to start falling in place. We're going to attract the best minds. Those will bring about the best innovative ideas that will attract the capital. Capital always follows initiatives.
Thank you, thank you. And just to focus on the last issue that wasn't addressed as much as I would like to, I saw in the report, that is housing and multifamily housing. Removing political barriers would be a suggestion there. Can you just talk more about that, about multifamily dwelling and housing?
Well, I think all the speakers that are much more knowledgeable than I am spoke about it, and there's a lot of that happening.
I understand. And last question, what are your plans in moving forward as to what should be done?
Well, I would hope, that I will step back and this committee will step forward and grab the ball and run with it, and with some timelines for us as a community to converge on a vision.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Controller.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Controller, for your report and actually opening up the dialogue. And I've learned, I have to say that I've learned a lot myself, and it is something that we've been talking about this. And as I said, when I was first elected, we heard time and time again about the plight of the young people. We don't have jobs for them. Now it's time to really start acting. And I think that from many of the speakers, that spoke here today, it's amazing to me how much is being done so far, but now it's harness everybody together. And I think that, Carrier, that if we can provide these type of jobs in all different technologies, whatever, that we can also provide and find the housing, and if we can come up with innovative ideas of housing as well. Because a lot of times young people don't really need big estates. They just would like to have one-bedroom apartment, and because they'd rather go out to work and hang out, and then just use their apartment, for sleeping and resting, whatever. So we need to tap into them and hear what they envision Nassau to be. On the older generation side. So, but we do have a slip from from H. Boytel. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, Henry Boytel, Rockville Center, New York. I'd like to very much congratulate our controller for getting this onto the table, and I'd like to congratulate the chair lady for calling this meeting. And I'd like to congratulate the what you call minority leader here for his incisive questions. I think this is a very important start. However, I have to tell you that I am disappointed as I sit here, because this committee has, in this very important issue for the future of Nassau County, this committee has not been able to hold a quorum for a good part of the afternoon. That is the sort of thing that's going to have to change. We're going to have legislators who are actually involved in this, both feet. You're going to have discussions amongst yourselves in public about the issues that have been raised here. You're going to have to call the controller back again and really enter into a dialogue with him and some of the other people here in order to develop a plan. The first plan is how to develop a plan, because you don't have that on the table yet. How are we going to do this? I have to say that in watching the activities over the past couple of years of the Nassau County Legislature, there's a lot of talk, but there's not a great deal of planning. You're not really holding it all together. This project can help this legislature be what it ought to be, and this legislature can see to it that the county will be what it ought to be. But not unless everybody's really prepared to roll up their sleeves and go to work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Are there any other public comments? Oh, yes, sir. Just state your name, please.
Hi, good afternoon. Carl Plutek from Ralston Heights. Thank you for this great hearing today. So many people have provided some excellent commentary on what we need to do to reform Long Island. I am one of the millennials here today and happy to be reporting to you guys. Also, I appreciate your recognition from the audience earlier, Carrie Sledges. What's occurring in Long Island right now? We have record level congestion on our highways. We don't have enough jobs on Long Island to keep our youth here. Millennials, they're leaving Long Island at an alarming pace. Rent is obviously too high for most millennials to want to stay in Long Island over New York City because it's more desirable. And millennials are unable to buy houses on Long Island due to high property taxes, high taxes in desirable neighborhoods and school districts where they might want to raise a family one day. And they also have the forced added expense of needing a car, paying for car insurance, gas, maintenance, tire replacements because we have crummy roads and bridges and all that stuff. So, there's a great added expense right there. There's also 64% of residents between 18 and 34 said that they plan to leave here in the next 5 years, according to a survey published by the Rocky Foundation, who was speaking earlier. And we have a systemic problem here that involves not enough transportation, housing, jobs, and taxes that are just way too high. The taxes are a difficult piece to really remedy, as Jeff Kigo spoke earlier about, because that is an issue that involves layering of government and all the different municipalities having the same services that are offered multiple times, and this is one of the reasons why our taxes are so high. So since we're really not going to shrink government, we have to focus on the other issues, which are transportation, housing, and jobs. We were the original suburbia. Levittown was the first. We started it in the United States. And it's time we reinvent the wheel and take on a 21st century approach to creating solutions that really we need to fix here on Long Island. And there's also the added thing that it's not just millennials that are leaving. If you think about it, in 15 to 25 years, baby boomers will be of age to need senior housing. The houses will exit, the houses they will exit either will be renovated or torn down, but there will be an excess of available homes too. So we also have to think about that. Our property values, our tax assessment system, it's going to have to change. We're going to have to change with the times because we have an antiquated system altogether, and we need to think of a 21st century approach on all levels. So what do we need? We need housing, transportation, jobs, affordability, desirability, and desirability here too. Now we have some great things that Nassau County has to offer, wonderful parks, recreation, but unfortunately it's very difficult for people to get everywhere. There's obviously not enough housing for young people here. And so that's why I want to talk about mixed-use housing, because I think it's really important, mixed-use housing. With mixed-use housing, we can have underground and above-ground parking garages. Now, that's going to save an exorbitant amount of space that we would otherwise have needed to use. We can put a few hundred spots and still have spots for for public parking as well. So we can have resident parking, we can have public parking, and well, how can we define mixed-use housing? You know, we can have multiple ground floor stores with an entrance and exit for the underground parking, for reserved spots, as I said, for residents and the public. And for the above stores, you know, we can have, you know, whatever retail outlets we need, shared co-working spaces perhaps, similar to the startup accelerator model, at a cost of no more than $250 per month per individual, which is actually a very fair price. If you go to Manhattan, it's about $450 and up. We need a countywide variance or law to build upwards for the buildings to be. I mean, we need larger structures. They can't be these short buildings anymore. We need to build up. We don't need skyscrapers because that's just way too much. And it's going kind of against our suburban vision, but we can have a new approach to a suburban vision. So I think that's important to recognize that, you know, we're trying to bridge the gap between Long Island and Manhattan. And we can't just be the regular suburbia anymore, and we can't try and be just like Manhattan. It's not going to work that way. So we have to bridge the gap and work together to find reasonable solutions. And I think that's going to be a reasonable solution in having mixed housing with restaurants, stores, you know, maybe shared working spaces or some office space, you name it. But it's got to be available. The housing needs to be within walking distance of train stations. It needs to be within a quarter mile to an eighth of a mile away. Manhattanites, yes, they walk around everywhere. It's better for public health to be walking. It reduces carbon emissions. It reduces the necessity for a car, which is great. And that means the costs are going to go down. It's not going to be as expensive for them to live on Long Island. And then they're also going to provide more business to the local economy if they're walking everywhere. So we're going to see an increase in in sales taxes from our local economy, which is going to help fuel these projects. So we have to think about the economics with this. But what's affordable? How do we get an affordable designation with public housing? Currently we have senior affordable public housing, but we don't have anything designated for 18 to 34 or even 40-year-olds. So we have to work on that. And affordable, I think, is around $750 to $1,000 a month. Because if you think about it, millennials, we are the people that have the largest student debt that America's ever seen. And when people are thinking about living somewhere, they have to incorporate how much debt they have, how much they have to pay per month for the school that they had to have that is basically mandatory now. You have to have a college degree now if you want to be able to succeed, and even more so a master's degree. So people are taking so much debt up, but they're not able to pay it off unless they have 10 or 15 years. So we need to think about that. We need to think about the cost that the young people have. Transportation is a huge issue. When millennials were polled, transportation was the #1 issue that millennials found that they had with Long Island as about 2 years ago. One of the things I think we can do is we can include shuttles that go to and from major areas of commerce to the mixed-use housing that we have. So if we set up mixed-use housing in lots of different areas all around Long Island, we're going to have, it'll be similar to a bus system, but it'll be direct. So it's going to cut the travel time by more than 50% because it's not making all those crazy stops everywhere. Secondly, our taxi companies are gouging our residents and gouging the people who are not our residents and are coming to visit. It's unbelievable. If you want to go from East Meadow to Manhasset, it's going to cost over $40 for one way. That's insane. You go into New York City, it's not that high. I mean, you start at a simple, smaller fare and you work your way up, but it's nowhere near $40. So we really need to think about how we're going to regulate our taxi companies because we need to work with them and promote the taxi companies, but promote the taxi companies at a more regulated price because this gouging can't go on anymore if we want to have a new suburbia, really. As former county executive Tom Suozzi once said, So it's really important because you think about young people, they want to go and have a fun nightlife, they still want to go out and do things, but honestly, it's not safe in Long Island to go driving around drunk, obviously. So we can't do that, we can't rely on that, and so nobody wants to go to a bar and then have to pay for a $40 taxi. Or if there's a storm, they'll actually raise the prices another $20 or $30 per ride because there's less people working. So it's crazy. We can't do this. We have to fix the taxi system if we want this to work. Also, transportation. I love that on this plan there was a monorail system, or at least a picture of it. We need to have it, and I think having a monorail system will be great because it would minimize the necessity to have eminent domain. If you're building up, not on our land, we're going to be really not facing really much issues at all in terms of where we need to go. We need to have it up and down. This issue was addressed earlier, which I greatly appreciate that someone actually brought up, that we only have east-west lines and we don't have north-south. But the Long Island Railroad is not able to do this with our current situation. With our tracks the way that they are, we can't lay them out and we can't replace more residents because that's going to create an uproar. We want our residents to be happy. We want support and coordination for these. And if we don't have the support from our residents and our communities, then what good is it going to be? How are we going to be able to upgrade our infrastructure? And also, by doing such a plan, by having a monorail system, it would provide hundreds, if not thousands of jobs here on Long Island. It would be an amazing thing for us here. And not only would it provide jobs, but it would provide sales tax, or increased sales revenue to all the stores and bagel shops or coffee places that they go to, Everybody is going to be needing to eat food. All those people in construction, they need to eat too. So they're going to be around here. They're going to be providing more sales revenue. This is going to be probably at least a 5-year project, maybe 10, to create a monorail system. So we have to think about that. That's going to be 10 years of increased sales revenue that Nassau County is going to get. So I think that's really important that we try and think about that. And really start making a reasonable solution to it. Because in the past, a monorail system was thrown out. People didn't like it, the public didn't support it, they thought that it would destroy Long Island. And in fact, it wouldn't really be destroying it, it would be changing it. But change isn't always a bad thing. Change can be a good thing if we recognize what it's for, if we recognize the positive impact that it's for. So, I urge you to really think about having a world-class, high-speed train system that can get people to and from, not even in Nassau County, but down to Ronkonkoma in Suffolk County, because Suffolk County is a county in Long Island too, and they are important to our success. So we need to work together, both counties, with the state, with our villages, with the U.S. government. All levels of government need to be worked together so that we can get something like this and get federal grants to support this, because obviously, because Nassau County is in not so great fiscal standing, we're not going to be able to do this on our own. So we really need some help with our other colleagues in government. I think these are some really good things that are going to help us. And jobs is one of the other things I want to touch on. Startup accelerators are very important. I've been involved more or less with startup accelerators for probably 3 or 4 years through my entrepreneurial efforts. And I was there for the grand opening of Launchpad Long Island 2 years ago. And I've been a major supporter of Launchpad and ListNet and the things that they've been doing here on Long Island, because it's very important. Having entrepreneurs come here and be able to settle their roots, because it's going to be invaluable for us. It's going to create business that's going to be long-term. They're going to stay here because they're not going to want to move. Their infrastructure is going to be here already. Everything that they have is going to be here already. Moving costs are going to be way too difficult for them. They're going to want to stay here. Furthermore, they're going to be getting investment. This investment comes from the Long Island Angel Network. Now, anyone that wants to get money from the Long Island Angel Network needs to fill out an application. In this application, they specifically state that you must be in Long Island. You must be staying here in order for that startup accelerator or incubator to work out, for them to get funding. So they're doing a good thing by promoting Long Island, and I think we need to work with these companies to help increase that. Now, Controller Marigo said he wasn't quite sure on how much more investment that was needed for startups. I know, because I know what we need. Now, Launchpad Long Island currently gives up to $25,000 in investment to startups. It's good, but it's not enough. We need more. We need $40,000 to $50,000 minimum per startup for it to happen. 25 is a bare bones operation, and it's really, really, really difficult for them to get the kind of staff that they need to support their startup and really grow at the kind of pace that they need and the pace that we need in Long Island to keep growing jobs. So whether it's through grant money, whether it's through working with other entrepreneurs, we need to try and find a way to get more money coming in for the startups because it's important. And I think more accelerators should be around everywhere. I think it's fantastic that Great Neck is getting one. I think it's fantastic that Farmingdale is getting one. I love that we have one here in Mineola, so close to the train station. We need to continue this, and we need to market it because if people don't know about it, you know, it's like having a banner with a cloth over it. Nobody can see. Nobody knows it's here. So we need to market it more. And market what we have in Long Island to all the people who are flocking over to New York City. We can work with recruiting companies. I was a tech recruiter, so I saw firsthand, you know, that these jobs are not here. These tech jobs are not here. Hospitals, law firms, and we just need to secure more jobs. And we can't secure more jobs without having the infrastructure here. So it's very important that we have this mixed-use housing, we have multifamily housing, and all of that. Now, it's really costly. Obviously, all this stuff is really costly. But I've thought of some ways that we can really offset these long-term costs. We can offset the long-term costs by projects and incentives.
Excuse me, Mr. Kodak, I'm
Yes.
sorry, you're giving us a lot of good information, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. So
2 minutes.
if you would like to
Or 1
give us, because I know Legislator Solage has a question of you. So,
Yes.
Okay.
Probably wrap it up and then we'll move on.
Yes, I'm actually almost done. We can offset the long-term cost for this very easily. It's green energy. When we get this mixed-use housing set up, when we get all this, we can install solar panels on the roofs. We can, that can help offset the energy costs that residents are going to have to pay. For Nassau County, we can convert our street lights to LED light bulbs, which will have a significant, like hand over fist significant effect on Nassau County in providing much needed dollars. We can have geothermal systems that's going to provide low-cost heat and air conditioning and cooling for the mixed use. And obviously buildings are very expensive, so it can help us. So by having a green energy plan, we're going to be able to much more offset the costs than just, you know, keeping it as it is. And it's going to offset carbon emissions too. It's a win-win for us all. So I think we should think about green energy and implementing it because the long-term solution is the long-term benefit is going to be great by having it. So I think we should do that, and by having widespread community support and marketing this through our county legislators to, you know, all their lists and everything, you know, I think it's going to be very important. We work with our civic associations to get more support for a larger plan, and if we all work together as a think tank in Nassau community, or as a Nassau community, we can really do this. So, you know, I urge you guys to think about the points that I made today, and you know, if you have any questions, feel free to ask me or reach out to me, and I would be happy to put any input in that I can.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for letting me speak today.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you for coming down here today. You had a lot of great facts and personal examples to use. In the Controller's report, the Controller assumes that if the cost of living were equal between New York and Nassau, young people would flock here to Nassau. You're a millennial. If the cost of living, because right now it costs just as expensive. It's just as expensive to live in Brooklyn as it is here.
Yeah.
If the cost of living were equal in both jurisdictions, where would you live?
Right now,
Yeah.
Long Island. My family's here. You know, people who want to stay family-oriented, I think, Long Island is a place where we have communities, and these communities are built on families. Everything in our whole nation is all built on families. So I think, people ultimately are going to come back to where their families are. Even if they're a millennial and they go into the city, they're going to want to come back. They're going to want to be around their families. The grandkids, the grandparents are going to want to be around their grandkids.
Thank you.
So I think it's important.
I also want to thank you for mentioning Tom Swazi and the cool downtowns idea that you initially talked about. I mean, so again, I want to thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Good day. Not to mention Ed Magano, they did all this work. Anyone else? Oh, sir. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. My name is Chuck Idle. I'm from Port Washington. I want to commend the controller, Maragos. It's an unbelievable plan, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with just the opportunity to have a conversation and all you're doing. I am a longtime Long Islander. I moved away for about 20 years. I moved back 2 years ago, right during Sandy. I live in Port Washington, and unfortunately I was, or have been, involved with the new 90-foot poles that have been going up from PSEG, both here and all over Long Island. I'm only here to talk about one thing, not the height of the poles, not the chemicals that are on the poles, but if we want to entice people to move into our neighborhoods, we have to look at considering long-term moving some of these larger, wider, and some of these poles are as big as this table, out of our main streets. We want to entice people to come downtown, to move into the main streets, to shop there. You can't do these with utility poles that we've been using for over 100 years. I encourage you to look at Washington, D.C. They're working with their roads departments. As roads need to be repaved, at that time, they're starting the undergrounding process. There are ways to accomplish undergrounding wires, to using non-chemical FRP type poles. I've heard a lot today about technology, right? You're streaming. All of those things are going to take more wire, more, as David Daly says, wire in the air, cables. And I don't think Long Island can continue to have the old technology of wooden poles carrying massive amounts of cables as we are doing today. You need to drive home and look to either your left or your right and look at the amount of cable that we are carrying. If we want to entice young people to come into our neighborhoods, they have to be enticing neighborhoods. I encourage everything that's in this plan. I heard nothing but great things today about all the things that are going on in Long Island. Utilities and electric services, and they have to be separated because PSEG is different than Verizon and Cablevision, etc. All of that has to be incorporated in this plan. What is the plan for our utility services as we begin to build more buildings, to entice more technologies to come in? The more technology we have, the more wires we're going to need. So again, it's just a beautification thing that I ask you to please consider. By the way, I'm in the technology field. I'm a small technology company. I will be talking to the gentleman about Launchpad, and I have 3 young kids, so I have some experience in the field.
You obviously have vested interest with your young children. I think that, and your point about the utilities, you're right. I mean, it's a shame that we have everything overhead, and I know that, but PSE&G, the cost of putting everything underground is exorbitant. And
I'm going to say something right there, just a quick note.
Yeah.
And I applaud what's happening here. A conversation, everything underground. I'm not even saying everything has to be underground. I'm saying, hypothetically, take Port Washington, right? It's a small area, it's a small portion that can be underground in. Nobody's saying that all the poles that are along some of the highways, that it's highly unlikely that, they don't look great, mind you, but it's the communities where people are trying to live, shop, eat, and work. You wouldn't go into New York City and see this. So it's a process. It's simply a process, and I ask to consideration.
And it is a consideration only because I guess, like when you think about proper smart development, that should be something that should be considered, that if they're gonna redesign the downtown, maybe try to see if you can work with utilities to move the wires in the air and put them underground.
Real briefly, based on your testimony and based on also what happened after Storm Sandy, in which many of these above ground wires caused a lot of problems, I think the county should consider a study that would discuss how much would that be, how much would that cost to actually put all of these wires underground. I think that's something that's worthwhile.
In this case of Port Washington, they did a study. They paid, I believe, $65,000 to have a study done. I don't believe we need more studies as we need more planning. If we know, as I stated, if we know that, I'm using Port Washington, it could be Manhasset, it could be, Mineola, it really doesn't matter to me. If we could work carefully with the roads commissioners and others to say the plan is that when a road is taken up, we are going to look at that time to consider burying the lines. We know it's expensive. I mean, I'm not going to tell you it's not expensive, but I think on the other hand, we also know if you want to bring people into your local communities, you can't do that when you've got massive utility poles that you're trying to walk around to go to the shopping center. So some towns don't have that. Some towns, the planning was done properly or long in advance, and there are no poles in the downtowns. So my focus is downtowns, which is what you're talking about. Specifically, even if you target the areas that have train stations that are trying to bring people back and forth, those high traffic areas, to make them more enticing. So it's a planning matter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, everyone. I really appreciate this, and we're closing out this hearing on economic development and labor. Thank you.
Second.